Hello and welcome everybody to the SendouQ finals. We are there at the end of the season and we have for you 12 teams ready to fight for the title. I am Pat here with Skep. Skep, how are you doing today?
I am very excited to be here this morning. Looking forward to wrapping up Season 7 on a high note with these 12 wonderful teams. But starting off here with Moonlight and Hypernova for our round 1 of our group stage. How are you doing, Pat?
I am doing awesome. I'm so glad I get to be casting this awesome tournament. Incredible teams we get to see. I mean, we are starting with Moonlight versus Hypernova. That would be the final of any other tournament, but it's just the first game of group Skep.
Yeah, any other tournament, any other weekly, if you're pulling up to your SOS, your paddling, you know, your 8-bit blitz, whatever it may be, these are the teams that you expect to see in finals, and maybe just 1 or 2 of them. So starting off with, you know, the infamous, the hero of the people, Moonlight, and then Hypernova, strong individual players in their own rights and longtime friends. 3 out of 4 of them on the side of Hypernova having won Gatorland during the Splatland Championship recently, Pat.
Oh, that's pretty good results. Well, let's get right into the game, starting with Umami Runes. Of course, on Splat Zones, it's going to be zones for this tournament. That's what these players want to play. And already, of course, we've seen the tent composition on the side of Moonlight, while Hypernova are playing whatever they want.
Yeah, Shadow's 10 infamous here, especially into a weapon like you have that pen there on the side of Hypernova. That being said, that screen going to do a great job of forcing that tent to play separately from the rest of their teammates and going to allow Hypernova potentially here to be the first team to cap that zone. And Henlo here, able to get the pick on Shadow, does do so. Also has this stamp ready to go, opting for a strong opening skirmishy defense here.
Yeah, and both teams still fighting for the zone. Neither team has scored a point yet. That's the power of double zone and 2 so evenly matched teams. As I say that, Moonlight is taking control, but is already having to fight for their first point.
Yeah, and we see Omega going in with that stamp, trying to throw that at the pen. Lexi on that right side, who does ultimately jump out, just leaving the brush there to keep Hypernova in mid before going down to Omega on that sword. This is going to allow Moonlight potentially to get set up for the first lockout of the game, especially with Shadow's 10 threatening that choke, but forced to back thanks to the stamp out from Synapse as Omega and Synapse down on this bottom left side, and it is Hypernova that comes out on top here, at least for that skirmish, but not for long.
Yeah, and Moonlight are holding the line right now. Nobody from Hypernova can really get to the zone. The hammer from Omega fighting the other wiper, getting a trade right there. But with 2 down, Hypernova doesn't have the numbers to push, and Moonlight are ticking down onto the zone, Skep.
Yeah, and it's 20 ticks remaining, and we have this Booyah coming out from Nolan. That Booyah going to be shredded, so not there for defense here, as we might be heading into overtime because it's just Shadow in that zone. Force the back, we do see Basil on that left side. The zone flips, it neutralizes, but can Hypernova get enough lead now to stall the zone? Will they be able to take out Moonlight? 2 members down on the side of Moonlight, going to give Hypernova an opportunity to start looking towards this left side because it's just Basil on the pen, and that is a cap. Desperately needed penalty applied to Moonlight for Hypernova. Their first push of the game here.
And meanwhile, Henlo just got a triple with that Wiper. Is now chasing a fourth splat. He's going to get it as well. Suddenly, Hypernova, after being waiting the whole game, are in control, are getting the splats, and now it's their turn to hold as Moonlight is now waiting for the opportunity to push.
Yeah, and we're going to see Moonlight having to figure out how to break back in with their comp, especially when they're going down what are realistically the two aggros, you know, working off the chip from that tent. So Moonlight being 2 down here with 30 ticks remaining on the side of Hypernova does put them in a desperate situation, especially losing Omega on that stamp. Henlo throws that stamp, not even on Nolan as that Booyah does come out. Henlo takes the opportunity to push up. One member down on the side of Hypernova as Moonlight has to do or die. It is go time in the zone, maintaining the control of Hypernova. That was 100-0.
That was 100-1, then 100-0. That's the biggest comeback you can ever get.
Yeah, that felt so... There's a word for when teams are so dominant, you know, that they curb stomp the other team in 100-0 push in a game, and you know, we all move on about it, especially teams of this caliber when they're facing, you know, maybe a slightly less strong team in finals of a weekly. But that being said, you typically don't see 100-1 and then 100-0 push back to back, where both teams' pushes feel so decisive and so dominant over one another in the same game.
The word here is control. Once a team is able to set themselves in front of the zone, once they are in the positions they want to be and waiting for the other team to come, they are in control of the map and they keep that control. And when you're facing a team of that power, breaking that control demands a lot. Demands stars to align things to get, especially since both of these teams had a Wiper. The Wiper is a weapon that can push, that can allow you to get in, but it's also very much a glass cannon. The Wiper can be called out and splatted very fast as well, and of course the hammer can do things or not. Now let's get on to Brinewater Springs, a map that very much allows the team to always come back, so hopefully we should see the zone being painted more than once in the game.
Yeah, we see both teams opting for the same comp, sticking with what they brought to Umami on what is, you know, arguably a very different map, except for the fact that you really want to be taking control of the opponent's choke point right here where Omega is on that left side. And that's similar to how the choke on Umami plays. That being said, while Moonlight is the first team to cap the zone, it does look like Hypernova is the first team to have bodies in mid for an extended period of time, as they do manage to get this cap and force Omega to jump out of that elbow, denying, you know, that split attention, that moment of opportunity there for Moonlight.
Yeah. And already we're seeing both teams having points on the board, being ready to face each other around the zone. And Omega is kind of isolated on the side, but able to jump away before being splatted by Henlo, still with a Wiper. Our teams haven't changed their compositions right there. They know that it can work, and right now, Moonlight are in control of the zone, are pushing in. Lexi is forced out with the pencil. Huge control by Moonlight. Now, can Moonlight use that control again to score as many points as they did in the previous game?
Yeah, we did see Shadow going very far forward to try and buy time, but that being said, it is the members of Moonlight going down one by one before we see Basil forced to jump out as Hypernova recaps that zone. Not a very solid lead held by Moonlight at this time, as we do see Hypernova starting to group up around that elbow.
Yeah, and we see more fights, more action. It looks like Hypernova are not stopping, are not slowing down and maintaining their presence. Moonlight is struggling to get out of their own ramscape. Omega with the Wiper waiting for the opportunity. The hammer is ready, so is the Booyah Bomb. There's lots of specials coming on the side of Moonlight. They lost the lead, but they're back on the zone, Scap.
It's so difficult to break this elbow without lethals, right? We see that Zuka coming out, but what are the Ink Mines realistically going to do on re-entry? And so we see Hypernova maintaining control. They do manage to get a pick with that stamp as Omega tries to rush in with their stamp and going to get punished for it by Henlo with the Wiper 1v1 as we head towards a KO with Hypernova in dominant control towards the end there, really letting Moonlight feed into them and taking advantage of the fact that that comp really does struggle on re-entry and vastly prefer a lockout.
Yeah, Hypernova very much playing to their strengths right there. And if you saw on that last attempt by Moonlight, the hammer was absolutely obliterated before it could deal damage. And then that kid threw a bomb at the 10 shield to get the extra splat. And it's very much Hypernova being able to counter these really hard-hitting weapons that Moonlight is bringing and punish them at the exact right moment to stop them from really getting any momentum.
It's the screen from the Gal that's separating the tent from the remaining players of Moonlight. And then just the sheer DPS that you have with the Wiper to shred that Booyah Bomb. You know, when you're talking Wiper v Wiper, I imagine that those players at this level in particular, I mean, they know exactly how that hitbox works, right? In order to go in for that one shot. And then again, just how quickly those Booyah Bombs are being taken out and denied value altogether. Granted, Mako Mart does work very differently than both Brine-Water and Umami. It is a very different type of lockout in terms of physically controlling a choke point. Versus Mako, you really want to be controlling those drops.
Yeah, Mako Mart, very much the map that gives us the most fight. It is so small, it has so many walls and covers that allow you to cut the distance all the time. And we see teams know what the deal is. These two stacks around the zone decide the game, so we're going to see both teams absolutely fight, pummel each other to go into there. And these teams should know they have a minute to rest and discuss strategy between each game. They're going back in already, Skep.
Yeah, but this we got a little bit of a change. Instead of Shadow's 10, you know, we have that crab that is really going to provide additional stability when dealing with that pencil, that screen, that stamp. My concern here is that crab is something that's very easily shredded again by that stamp, as well as the screen blocking, you know, those AoE sight lines for the members of Moonlight.
Yeah, they'll have to use the crab proactively before Hypernova activates their specials. And right now, Hypernova are going to take control of the zone. Hypernova is riding that momentum, and Moonlight is very much super back. Like, Shadow is so far away from the zone with that grab.
Yeah, and we do see Hypernova starting to look towards that right side where Shadow was, where they know that the enemy are. Dat Kid very cheekily getting a nice clean pick on Omega, knowing no doubt that other members of Moonlight are still on that right side, and we see them, you know, sharking their way up there. Nolan's Booyah going to come out from that breakfast. No teammates other than Shadow able to start working their way forward with the paint. Very good crab from Shadow here, Pat.
Yeah, that crowd in the perfect position is holding, is doing the work, and right now Moonlight are holding the zone, are taking control, and with Nolan under the ledge. Never mind, that kid is back on the attack with that brush.
Yeah, I really appreciate Moonlight's cap of the zone there via natural positioning. None of them ever actually painted. It just kind of happened because of the space that they took. And that allowed them to apply that penalty without risk to their members. So here we go with this 4v4 exchange with Moonlight back in control. Hypernova, 2 members down as Omega gets a nice pick with that stamp. And the Yeet possibly trying to go for Lexi, but not able to confirm that pick as Moonlight taking down their penalty about halfway through the game in what has been the most even fight so far.
Yeah, Moonlight are finding their groove. They're going into this game. Hypernova now activating the tactical. They know they want to get into these fights between the brush and the wiper. They're simply running forward, but they're getting punished right now. Moonlight was waiting for them and is holding the zone, getting the lead, and still very much in control of the map, Skeff.
Yeah, and the fact that they have both of those stacks, they still have that crab, they still have that stamp here ready to go. We do see Henlo popping their stamp, running for Omega. Omega pops theirs, but not able to get the pick. Henlo needing that for the zone, as Hypernova does manage to apply penalty and cap for the first time in about a minute here, buying themselves precious moments with 11 points remaining on the side of Moonlight. 2v2 situation. I expect Moonlight to maintain control here, given the stacks, but no, that kid coming in and denying that line of thought, as Hypernova forcing Moonlight back towards their own half of the map.
And penalty isn't that big. Hypernova could be back to scoring a lot of points very fast. And Moonlight is back to waiting for the push opportunity. Nolan is dropped a bit too early. I feel Synapse is ready to go in and is going to go in right there as all of Moonlight is to the side preparing a push together. Hypernova, 2 players left, but they could delay and get the lead if they can. Oh, no, not too late. Moonlight coming in very, very fast.
Textbook we retake from left play on Mako. One of the biggest differences between Splatoon 3 and Splatoon 2 with how retakes operate on this map. Before you used to have to split 2-2 and really wait for your armor missiles. Now you really can 4-stack one side, and that being how Moonlight was able to re-entry. And it looks like Hypernova opting for a similar strategy with that right side, opting for a 3-1 split, as we do see Omega being taken down in a 2v1 by that kid.
Oh! That kid also getting a bomb on the crab tank right there. That's going to slow down Moonlight's retake. They need to get on the zone fast. We're in the last minutes cap. Everybody's fighting around the zone. That kid retaking it. There isn't that much penalty. Moonlight needs to paint. Shadow is there with the splash and does exactly that. But everybody's here to counter. Henlo taking control of the stack with the wiper. The crab tank is way too far away and is punished. Henlo! Sealing the deal, and that's game number 3 for Hypernova.
What looked like such a change of pace from Moonlight, where you really did genuinely believe that they were going to walk away with that game after, close, not decisively. But what looked like they had the consistent positional advantage, consistent stronger retakes. But in the end, I mean, you need one good lockout if the lead is that narrow. And Hypernova, showing that, where so there's something about the Florida Everglades, there's something about that swamp that, makes strong competitors, and, Synapse along for the ride.
I mean, we saw Moonlight play so well. On the Mana Runes, they got 1 point away from a KO. On Makobar, they were just a few points away. And Hypernova got the lead back only in the last minute of the game. Moonlight very much on par with Hypernova, but they're on par for 4 minutes and a half. And Hypernova is able to be the team on top at the end of the game.
Unbelievable there. From Hypernova, taking on paper what was such an incredibly close set, right? We have our 6th and 7th seeds. We have Moonlight, who just walked away with the MomoCon trophy and 2nd place in DivX. Then we have our weekly warriors, right? Who we know are good, we know are strong, but man, can they beat Moonlight? Apparently, yes, and frankly, cleanly. Against a comp that Moonlight's comp is in theory supposed to work well against, right? Something that is a pen-centered QR rushdown feed chip damage comp, especially around Henlo's wiper. In theory, that's something that Moonlight's comp should be able to stall out.
Apparently, it's just that Hypernova was simply faster between the brush and the wiper. They were able to simply outpace Moonlight, get the better of them in so many fights. And I mean, we saw so many pop-off, especially between that kid and Henlo. They were able to get in, they were able to punish these strong weapons that are supposed to hold the line. We saw several crab tanks get shredded in an instant, and that's how you beat a team of the caliber of Moonlight, which is a very nice first set for Hypernova, but it's only the first round. of this group stage of the finale. We have more to watch, Skep.
Yeah, I am really excited for Kanden v Parasail. Kanden, honestly, you didn't hear this from me, but the energy that they're kind of bringing to the table, this is a Splatoon 1, Splatoon 2 callback for those of us who are ancient and crusty. It's kind of giving Hanran. You know, the way that they like to play fast, run it down. You know, you have Bake on that anchor, but that being said, very aggressive team. And then on Parasail on the other side, you know, we have Lemon, who formerly of Octopi, very, very popular player. And CJ and Goose have some background with Octopi as well. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, Kanden, a EU team that has been grinding weekly tournaments, getting results, getting better and better and better throughout the days. I can't wait to see them play in this finale. And yeah, let's see how they're able to do. They're bringing their usual comp right there on the other side. That's a comp. We've seen these weapons before, Skep.
Yeah, it's almost looking freakishly familiar. Pause, champ. Both of these teams here having lost their previous set versus Vanguard and Milky Way, respectively. So either team here going to put their first win on the board this morning with, as you mentioned, strangely familiar comps.
Yeah. I mean, this is top level. At this level, you need to play the few weapons that work the best, that you know you can play well. And right now, it looks like Kanden are getting the edge, are getting control over the zone, and are setting themselves in front of it with a Booyah Bomb to take more control. 2 down onto Parasail, who are now kind of back and forced to muster another attack.
Yeah, we have Baka there on that pen, all the way set up in elbow. That's going to provide some lethal pressure there to keep Parasail out of said elbow. Mia there, sharking out, trying to deal with the 10. Does manage to get the pick before their teammates need the help there. Kanden, here we go, heading towards that KO. It's just Goose in the elbow, popping the Zuka, misses one shot, goes down before the second one can come out. And that, dare I say, is GG's, Pat.
I mean, every team that made it to this finale are incredible and to be respected, but right there, Kanden just showed Parasail how it's done. Just absolutely reminded Parasail, hey, we're here to beat you up. We're here to show you better. And I mean, that was a commanding KO by Kanden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all these teams here, they got here the same way. Through playing SendouQ in tournaments and playing better than everybody else. And Parasail, you know, having gotten second in SOS last week, you know, a respectable weekly where you expect to see very good teams, you know, coming out to the top. So going from second in SOS to where here we are now, Kanden, who won, you know, the Golden Paddling a couple of weeks ago, it's a very different game. It really goes to show how small differences in skill or perception or awareness or simply a mistake can have such a huge impact on the outcome of the game.
Yeah, and now we're going to a map that I don't need to look at the info. I know that Kanden is the team that chose this map. They like to go here. I don't know why. I mean, they know they want to go here because they have a plan for it, and they know most teams don't like to practice this map.
Yeah, honestly, we've played one too many JP scrims, so now we think Scorched Zones is acceptable. That timeline is very real. So that being said, Kanden, the first team to cap the zone, but they're still going to have to deal with getting a 10 not alive in mid, and that's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, Parasail still on the attack. Lemon able to get one with the hammer and still dancing with that wiper, getting a second splat. Huge control by Lemon, and Parasail is going to take the zone with an extra splat as well. We take those. Nice control by Parasail. Now how do they do? Now they're in control.
See, this is the curse of Scorch. You think you know it. You don't. Kanden drops in, does try and pop the booyah, gets taken out. We see Goose here on this right side again. You got to get that pent out of mid. It doesn't quite work out, and we see Parasail. It looks like they're going to be able to maintain control, especially with the Stamper there dropping it alone. Now they have to deal with both the tent and the 52. That is not a fair 2v1 for anybody. And now the crab out from that left side also has less people to follow up with it. So Parasail doing such a fantastic job of staying alive, but they're giving the Scorch zone. This is how everything falls apart, because look how close those players of Parasail are clumped up together, or at least they were before Kanden capped that zone.
It's so hard to find good positions on this zone, on this map, and right there, Kanden are back into the fight. Parasail are keeping the zone. Blue penalty was applied, but they're still around, and Kanden are struggling to push in, it seems.
Yeah, and it's the tent, right? This map, wherever you have that is not claustrophobic, that is not behind some piece of cover that the enemy can drop on you, that's not right under a drop. Anywhere else, you're in the wide open, which is where that tent is really going to shine, as we do see Cricket and Goose, the last players left standing, as Parasail clears this penalty.
Yeah, Parasail back on top right now, making more and more points. Kanden struggling on their pick, activating another Zipcaster. That Zipcaster needs to work. There isn't much time left, especially since this zone is so long to paint. I hear a Booyah Bomb. I see a Crab Tank as well. All the specials will allow Kanden to apply penalty, but now they have still so much work to do. 2 down onto Parasail will give them control, but now they need to hold that control. They need to stay there, and they only have 2 minutes to get the comeback.
My concern here is that, again, this comp that we see Parasail is running does not have lethals, and it appears to struggle on re-entry. But then again, you don't need to worry about re-entry if you just, defeat the opponent while they're while they're overextending, which is exactly what Parasail was able to do. Applying penalty on Kanden. Like you said, a minute and a half left on a map that does tend to be so lockout prone, and we saw how long Parasail's previous re-engagement took, especially with the zip cast going down. We have the Stampede checked at the crab as well, not able to get the pick, but is going to be enough to threaten it, as Parasail gets really dangerously close to a KO here. Kanden forced the re-entry path.
Kanden coming in, Mia activating the Booyah Bomb, very nice splat right there on the wiper, and Kanden are back on the zone, but now there's only 1 minute left, and Kanden are back to trying to hold, back to trying to deny the next push from Parasail. But next push will decide everything now, Skep.
I think that the big difference here is how far Kanden overextends, because that's what Parasail was able to capitalize last time around. 2 members down on the side of Parasail thanks to that beautiful zip cast out. Does mean that Kanden is going to have the advantage about halfway through towards pulling lead here, as they get the pick on that Stamper with that hammer as well. The Zuka coming out forces the crab to drop, but 2 members down on the side of Parasail means that Kanden is going to pull lead, and with it, very difficult time to re-entry here for Parasail. 2-0 in favor of Kanden. After, again, what looked really dominant for Parasail, but Kanden learning from their previous lockout and opting to just chill, get special, wait for them to drop in mid.
It's as you said, it is so hard to be push on Parasail. At first, they were able to rely on Kanden, overextending, making a few mistakes, and at that level you are not allowed to make mistakes. Parasail was able to bring the fight to Kanden and punish that, but in the end Kanden got their hold and then didn't make the mistake again. They learned, they didn't overextend, they won the fight, and by winning the fight they kept the zone, they kept the game, and now they are up 2-0 against Parasail.
Beautiful use of the Zipcast there, out from the Zipcaster, the sword player on the side of Kanden. You know, you can go forward and you can feed on a Zipcaster, but in the end, you're going to recall if you manage to live. You know, what to some people might make Zipcaster a difficult special to push with and maintain space after the special. In this case, on Lockout, actually made that special the wisest to burn first, given you could go forward, buy as much time as possible for your teammates to keep painting up mid, and more importantly, deny your opponent the opportunity to get their specials, especially with those two very clean picks.
Yeah, getting the good denials is key now. We are going to Ingblood Art Academy. Last chance for Parasail. They need to win every game from now on if they want to win this set. And Kanden is intent on not slowing down. They're already back to that fight on the zone right there. The crab tank is deployed and is going to force Parasail to move back for now. Oh well, but Goose is back on the attack with the tent.
Hitting that tent shield going towards that left side. Nobody playing in with it except for Lemon on that stamp, going to get the third pick down, meaning it is just the S-Blast in an unknown location left standing. Somehow we do lose the pen on the side of Parasail. Oh, it must have been the sword! The sword coming in from behind! That's going to recall there, but beautiful pick there on that Zipcaster to get that pen out before any of their teammates could even notice to come help.
Yeah, and it looks like Parasail are making good points, but Kanden are back in attacking position with Cooler Bake right there, trying to paint a little bit, delay the lead from Parasail, as Parasail are simply happy to hold the zone back a bit more, but they lost two players, including their backline. What happened right there? Mia going in with the blaster, taking control of top mid, establishing themselves in a dominant position.
Yeah, and something that makes this this map really unique is the fact that once you're standing on flat, you really have nowhere to back to. It's such a committal position for something that is on your half of the map. So as this Zuka comes out and the whale comes out, we are going to see Parasail moving forward with that special economy, clearing their way off of what is a deceptively dangerous location with their own plat. As they have this cooler for the next re-engagement here, as Goose and the sword 1v1ing on that left side, we do see that the sword comes out on top of that, but now they're going to have to deal with Cricket with that Gal before ultimately jumping, and Parasail being very close to clearing their penalty, but not before they go 2 down, and Kanden again leading with the zip. This is something that they've been doing a lot this game.
Yeah, the zip really creates a lot of space, and Kanden is so good at moving forward in the space that's open for them, and then once they're in, staying there. Look at that, they're on the platform, the hammer and the whale is going to push them out. Very nice answer by Parasail, reminding them that they cannot overcome it, but they cannot stay in. Parasail is going to keep the lead, Skep.
I think Lemon would like to remind everyone that they've been playing Viper pretty much longer than anybody else in the scene. Kanden does manage to recap there, denying Parasail an opportunity from extending their lead or clearing that penalty, as they are very close themselves to clearing said penalty, especially with that crab online ready to go. We know that how oppressive that crab can be from top mid. Parasail with 2 specials online here, Pat. That tells me they're going to want to start moving forward with this whale and the Zuka, exactly like their previous engagement.
Parasail trying to go in, but right now Kanden are simply holding the zone, staying in control. The tent being punished early is going to make everything harder from them. Now Kanden and their blaster simply holding more and more, punishing everybody. I mean, Kanden are simply taking control of this game right now. Penalty has been applied onto them, but they have a huge lead, and Parasail is struggling to get out of their spawn.
Well, they do get that zip, and that is huge, especially, you know, as they're preparing to re-engage. We again have this Zuka being popped on this right side, you know, has 1 shot left, going to be taken out, but just the predictability of that re-engagement now coming up from Parasail, Kanden reading right into it. 11 alone here on this right side, as see them cleaning up those jumps, and that is very likely going to be GG's for Kanden here, taking the set 3-0.
Another 3-0. But, I mean, Parasail, it feels like they were playing better and better throughout the set, but they were learning how to play Kanden. But in this last minute of the game, we really saw Kanden take control, preemptively stop what Parasail was doing, and getting the KO.
What struck me there towards the end is how the re-engagements were, how they were organized and how consistent they were. Like that map had been very clearly thought out and game planned and strategized around. But ultimately that static plastic, retake, Kanden figuring that one out. And that was like 3 times, right? Where we saw the whale and the Zuka together on that right side. One of which the 52 was already down, so it didn't quite work out the way that the plan was clearly intended to. But nonetheless, you could see the VOD review coming out in the gameplay.
I mean, I agree. Parasail were very much relying on their specials to get in, and on their specials to get the splats to get in, especially the hammer and the Zuka. They needed to connect, they needed to find the splats in order to allow Parasail to get space. Whereas Kanden, all they needed to do was activate Zipcaster, be annoying behind everybody, and then the rest of the team could simply run forward. That allowed them to use their specials to hold the zone instead of simply taking it. A better economy of special by Kanden really allowed them to take control of this game.
Precisely. When the specials are being used to re-entry, you probably don't have them to situate a lockout. And while Whale and Zuka are very good together, number one, because of the chip, number two, because the Whale is going to force your opponents to move, and especially on a map like Inkblot, they're most likely going to back to their own slick. Very good specials to chain on top of each other, especially on that map in particular. But just the predictability of it, Kanden winning the pattern recognition battle.
Yep, winning that battle. I'm not sure if our next game is ready. How about we take a short break and catch our breath before the next one?
That sounds great, Pat. We'll be back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to SendouQ Finals for Season 7. My name is Kevin and I'm here with my lovely friend Pat as we resume our pool stage of today's tournament. Pat, what do we have here?
We have Artifice, a team that I don't know that much. They've been playing around a bit. Let me check what I saw them yesterday, actually. They were playing in Triton Cup and got 5th behind other teams that are competing today. They're a solid high level, but the kind of team that you find at the end of most weekly tournaments, but here it's not a weekly tournament. And they're facing Metro. Metro, I haven't seen them in a million years, but given the fact it's Metro, I have to assume they're still good.
Yeah, honestly, what surprises me so much about Artifice's roster is that we have these legacy players like Peta, Sam, and Bounce, and then we have Fox, who's been really tearing it up the past year or so, so a really up-and-coming anchor player. And here we go with Metro versus Artifice, and like you mentioned, legacy players as well on the side of Metro. I mean, who doesn't remember Atomic Squeezer? I think it just speaks for itself.
Yeah, well, right now we have Atomic Roller, which is also a classic of the scene. Right now, Metro going in, taking control, getting the splats, and with incredible speed already going in and taking control of this Mahi. The water hasn't dropped yet, so we have yet to see really these two teams expand and play all their game.
Yeah, and here we go with Artifice working their way, trying to maintain control of the zone or cap it. Yeah, there they go. That's 71 to 72, so a little bit of a 1-point lead going on as two members on the side of Artifice do fall. Metro very quickly going to recap that zone, but you got to remember, neither team haven't gotten below 60 points remaining, means that the map is still, quote, unplayable. So as we do see Artifice clearing their penalty here, we should start to see the biggest point change of the game so far. Yep,
right now the water is about to drop, but Metro doesn't mind. They're ahead of where it matters. They're so deep in. They're in the enemy territory, and Artifice is struggling to get out of their spawn. It's a wipeout, and everybody but Yaotl is still in fighting positions.
Yeah, this could be it. We could see Metro walking away with the game. They do manage to get the pick on the side, on Atomic. Two members down on the side of Metro as Artifice drops it, does manage to cap, but it looks like they're struggling to keep their feet painted as they know one member of Metro is currently situated behind them. Make that 2. We still have Atomic on that roller back on Artifice's plat, and it just looks like every member here on both teams opting to take their 1v1s here and see which group comes out on top. And for now, that is Metro.
Yeah, Metro able to retake control over the zone. At least Artifice have control of their spawn, which will allow them to prepare the push, to prepare something together. And look at that, they're already going in. We see Bounce with that gal getting punished as Sam will activate the craft tank. The craft tank is shredded and nothing is working right now for Artifice. Peter with that Zipcaster is able to create some chaos, but Artifice still needs to paint the zone. They're able to get it and push Metro away. This was with a lot of pain, but Artifice were able to take control.
Saw the bubble out from Atomic on the zone at that beautiful moment with the crab there on that bottom side of the map, and I thought that was GG. So Artifice, stalling that zone long enough in order to be able to cap. A beautiful decision-making coming out from them there. As we do see it's just the bucket left standing on the side of Metro, no doubt called out by every member on the side of Artifice, but providing enough stim there that no doubt the members of Metro are preparing to re-engage at any moment, Pat.
Yeah, and Artifice chased that bucket with a Zipcaster to make sure nobody was to the side, to make sure they could keep some control. But right now, Metro is coming in with all of their specials, and they're getting the splats, they're getting the control. Everybody but one player is down, and Metro is back on that platform with a lot of control and not that much penalty, Skep.
This is a death throw of a play right here with these strikes coming out on Artifice's plat. They do see that the members work their way up and get the pick on PETA, as again, Metro all the way up in their opponent's spawn with just Yaotl left to take the lone drip pick on the zone.
Yoshel's simply hanging there, waiting for the rest of the team to be done with the fight. Come on, let the zone tick. And that's 1-0 for Metro. Artifice able to get several pushes, able to get control to counter Metro in several fights, but in the end, the dynamic of the game, and I mean the holds for Metro were longer, were stronger.
Yeah, it's so hard to like put a finger on it because we saw Artifice consistently able to cap and apply penalty. But Metro, man, they took so much forward space that not only did Artifice have to clear them off of their plat, but then out of mid and dealing with all of those sides. And I think a lot can be said about the first minute of that game with how back and forth it was until the map changed. And then after that, it just became a game plan from Metro.
And that was the problem for Artifice. When Artifice was pushing, they were getting the zone, they were getting control of the center of the map. When Metro were pushing, they were under the spawn, ready to win another fight. And even if they lost that fight under the spawn, they were moving back to the zone, and we're back to another fight to get the zone from Artifice. Artifice had to push twice, where Metro had to push only once, because Metro were able to simply move faster off of their wins.
And then you have your pen, you know, looking pretty in the zone, maybe hitting the gritty a little bit, you know, some squid bagging, whatever it may be. You know, Yaotl just sitting in that zone, providing those stable jumps as the rest of their teammates who run for the Twitter clip. Not all of us could get good clips. Some of us have to provide jumps, and that means that y'all better be tagging us in those clips.
Yep, right now Metro are in the lead, but it's only 1 point, and we are going on to Ship-Shaped Cargo Company, a very different map, very different way to retake, and pay attention to the snipers, because on these wide maps where you have these huge open spaces to cross, the backlines decide a lot of the game.
Right, and you know where typically the roller is going to be on this map once enough paint is down in your own court. You know they're going to want to be right under there where PETA was standing just a moment ago. But they need to be set up in order to do so. What? That pick from Fox? Excuse me?
That was 3 down onto Metro, and Zenith coming back in a bit too hard. Only getting a trade right now. Artifice were able to take so much, but Metro coming back so strong, already back in control of the zone. And Artifice are forced to use their specials again. The back and forth is so fast, Kev.
Sam putting pressure on that top left side does manage to get a pick as we see their teammates working their way up to the top right, which means that in theory, Artifice is in control of their own half of the map now and can start working their way towards that top left area. We see the beautiful pick on Atomic, Bounce trying to take the 1v1 with Zen in the zone, not able to win that one out, as we do see the splash going in and trying to take that 1v2, does get punished for it. As Artifice here going to clear their penalty and start putting points on the board for the first time since the opening of the game, Pat.
Yeah, Artifice taking their control right now. They are in the position they want. Sam with a beautiful crab resisting every attack. As I say that, they get punished, and Metro is back on the zone with a wipeout. They lost the lead, but I mean, they've taken the zone several times, and penalty is pretty low for them. They're gonna make a quick work of it.
Low penalty, 2.5 specials online. We see those strikes coming out. We have the bubble out here from Atomic. That is not something that I want to be pushing into underneath the ledge or at the front of this zone. Does look like they're going to opt to hold that wise because the crab does come out now with this Kraken as we do see the splash force the back about not falling for that cheeky little trick on the grates. As Metro here getting towards that 20-point remaining mark with no specials and only 2 players up on the side of Artifice.
And Artifice need to push now, but they're facing a bunch of strikes that are going to stop them. 2 players down. That game is going to go faster than the previous one. Metro are getting more and more pace, are getting faster, and are looking more and more on the winning side.
To play devil's advocate, both of those maps have very punishing drops.
Yeah.
And I will say, not to like gas Atomic too hard, but like the patience out from the roller, I think it takes a lot of restraint on a weapon like that to not go in and feed for picks in the opening just because you can. And to instead wait for the map to be painted. And we saw them allowing their teammates to be the ones to feed and sitting and providing jumps where their pen typically might on that top left area. I thought that was a very good understanding of how their weapon should play on that map for an opening. And contradictory to how other players might typically play it.
Yeah, well, now we're going on Macromart, and you were talking about roller restraint. We're about to have a buffet for the roller now.
We're talking about punishing drops. This is so like maps can be lockout heavy because of their drops, or they could be lockout heavy because of choke points and geometry around the choke points. In this case, all 3 of these maps have been about drops. And so we're gonna have to see Artifice change something in terms of their behavior if they want to come out on top here.
Yeah, Artifice need to be able to know at all time where Goss and Atomic are so that they can drop safely, so that they can get in. And Sam is getting a nice opening crab with 1 pick and dodging the strikes afterward. But now here comes the answer by Metro. Both teams still fighting for the zone right there. Atomic is sharking around, ready to punish, but not finding the splats yet, as Metro is going to get the zone, but Artifice is still around, ready to fight. Atomic going in, attacking the plat, getting punished for it. Metro still able to get control, but Artifice is ready to come back in.
A little perplexed about those strikes in that street when no one was there, but it does look like it's going to be working out. Maybe they know. Maybe there was some secret to that spot. As we do see Metro here below that 50-point mark. Yoshi does go down. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Atomic just got a huge splat on the pencil. As I say that Metro lost 2 players, Artifice should be able to go back in even without Tactical. They should get onto the zone. Very nice Kraken by Bound, but the Kraken cannot paint. The rest of the team needs to go in. Artifice, there's nobody to paint on the zone, and Metro came back. Metro winning even faster than the previous game. Huge point by them, and that's a 3-0.
A clean one. And I think there's something to be said about the maps in that particular set, and just how favored Metro really was in that instance. Yes, sometimes you win the set because you're better than your opponents. That's 10 out of 10. We want to be winning sets because we're better than our opponents. Sometimes you win sets because your opponents just had a bad day. That happens too. And then other times you win the set because quite simply, not only are you better, but the maps are so sufficiently suited to your comp that it really allows what might be a small difference in skill to feel massive. And that's pretty much how that set felt from my perspective.
Yeah, I agree to a point, but as you said, on Shipshape Cargo Company, we saw Atomic really play completely differently than they did on that macro game. Metro, they have the comms to work with any map because they know how to adapt to any map. They know how to change their pace, how to change their position, and that's why they're still a great team. That's why, despite us not seeing them as often as we would love to see them, please come back to play more tournaments. We love you. They're still very much on top. They're still very much in control and doing an incredible work.
We will see how much of it was the map, right? Because they have a whole tourney run to prove it, that their comp is that flexible, that they are masters of their weapons, and that they understand how to play their weapons on maps that might not favor them inherently. So we'll see, Pat. I'm calling it that those maps are just maps with very punishing drops with relatively similar pages and elevation. That's what I'm calling.
Yep, that's what you are calling. Yeah, and that was round 3 of the tournament. We still have one more round to cast, before we pass the mic on to our next casters. We'll take a short break and we will be right back.
Draw.
And we are back with the Season 7 finale of the SendouQ season. And yeah, I'm still Pat with Skep. We have two wonderful teams to watch there. Kanden representing Europe, and Yaotl, Teotl, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Skep, representing Leighton.
Actually, your name is Pat J or Tom, not Pat with Skep.
Okay.
Anyway, here we go. Splatzone's Wahoo World. I'm saying Wahoo to this map pick. I'm really excited about it. I know that this is a very controversial map, but for zones, I personally rather enjoy it.
Well, it's a map that's very good if you like a ranged weapon, and we see both of these teams bringing the Elite to the mix. Both One-Shot and Bake are incredible snipers, so I can't wait to see them absolutely dominate this map right now. It looks like Bake is already down, and Kanden is going to be forced out of here. Lex pushing in with the Gao. It's a wipeout for Yaotl Teotl.
Yeah, and we can see the fact that Yaotl is all the way up on their Kanden's plat, right? Look at all that blue paint in court here, as we're gonna see Mia in rather situation as they would drop. Instead opting to evaluate that left side, taken down by the blaster. This is a very clean opening here.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Yaotl absolutely controlling the map everywhere around, and Kanden struggling to get out of their spawn. They activate the zip, trying to get in, but they're punished by the brush, and Kanden not able to go out. They keep losing players because of Lex with a gal to the side. All of Yaotl still in control of the zone, and now Kanden no longer has time. They need to run at the zone. They need to paint now, Skep.
A very difficult situation when you have the Kraken there forcing you to move around it, but that being said, the Booyah going to provide enough paint there in combination with the stamp in order to cap the zone. We do see that recall to the zone as the members of Yaotl are back in the game. We got two members on that right side, two members on that left portion of the map, getting pretty close to penalty. Something it's a special. Something else to keep in mind here with this map is because it is so big, it is particularly easy to paint for special for your re-entry. Despite that, we do see Yaotl engaging without said special. Because of that, they go 4 down, and that's going to keep Kanden in the game with no penalty with 2 minutes left in this game. Could be dangerous here.
Yeah. Oh, and it's again 2 down on Yaotl. Kanden answering the call, holding the zone themselves. They're on their way to get the lead back, as Yaotl are able to get back into mid, are able to get back onto the zone, but they need to paint now. They're able to get on the zone and keep the lead by just 3 points. This is so close.
Yeah, that was a actually really clean retake there, particularly the decision making from Pinky to go to that left side where their teammates were less likely to be coming from, in order to be able to apply paint at an unexpected angle. And so because of that, as a massive penalty on the side of Kanden, as we do see they're getting close to the waves, they're getting close to their Booyah, they have that Booyah coming out. That's going to let them force cap that zone, but realistically, such a huge map with such heavy lockouts is still a phenomenally even game.
Yeah, right now, Yaotl Teotl staying in control of the zone. Kanden kind of forced out, but able to get back on there, able to repaint. They need to hold. We have less than 2 minutes into this game, and Kanden has a huge penalty to come back from.
Yeah, despite Kanden, the ones in control though, they do lose their zap, and with that their cooler, as Yaotl Teotl does recap that zone rather quickly. Working with those bubbles and very close to that whale as well. Double whale, such a pain to fight. Less so on this map because of how massive it is. So a little bit of a disadvantage with that comp as that Booyah does come out. We do see the blaster Inca using that to get a pick on the 52. Very close to clearing penalty here. Those 30 ticks, that's precious time given again the size of this map.
Yeah, Yaotl still in control right now. 2 down onto Kanden. The Booyah Bomb is active. Silver is punished, but Yaotl will have no trouble painting over and getting game number 1.
Whoa, okay. that was an experience, Pat. And just really, how clean both teams were able to maintain control of each other's space.
Yeah.
Where it came down to at the end was just Yaotl had cleaner retakes. The fact that they were able to survive those retakes with special online, whether that be the Blaster's bubble or whale, setting themselves up very, very well for Kanden's next re-engagement. So beautiful play there. A little bit of an unorthodox map.
Yeah, it's the kind of map where it's really about taking more than the zone, putting yourself ahead of the zone and pushing the whole other team back into their spawn so that you can wait for them exactly where you want to fight them. Yaotl doing that perfectly, getting game number 1, but there's more to come, Skep. Now we are going on to Umami Runes, where we'll see more action, and again, kind of zones where if one team is able to put themselves ahead of the zone, they can hold for very, very long.
See, when you're dropping and locking out your opponents on Wahoo, those are drops that you can see clearly. You have the time, the space, and the comfort to check your map, knowing that you're not just going to be dropped on like you would on Mako, as an example. Versus Umami, yeah, you can take your time once you're in control of your opponent's choke, but there's so many little nooks and crannies, so many blind turns that really favor a much different and more common play style than Splatzone's Wahoo. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. We're switching off the leaders, so it seems.
Oh, well, Kanden is, Yaotl are sticking to the little... I mean, when your name is one shot, going to the pencil isn't gonna work. You can't, you're not allowed to.
No, and something else to consider is the fact that instead of running a cooler, that with that C leader, we have those beacons enabling teammates to reposition more quickly, as well as re-engage in situations where your leader might not be able to provide a safe jump. Kanden is going to be the first team to cap that zone. Now looking towards one shot, they do manage to get that pick, and that means that Kanden is going to be the first team here to set up a lockout. Very clean pick with Ego's Crab there, as Lex is alone and rather forward, no doubt called out by the members of Kanden, who are swarming that 52, but managing to diff enough of them to walk away with the trade. Beautiful play, but thus Kanden maintaining control for now as they're having to deal with this flank.
Yeah, and the flank is going to be enough to allow Yaotl onto the zone and get in. Oh, very, very rough Kraken right there. Yaotl will take the zone, apply penalty, and with 4 versus 2, they are pushing in, getting a bit more space now. Oh, with that splat on the Stamper, they should be able to set themselves for good defense.
Good bubble here, going to provide some stability against the other blaster on that bottom side, and that means that Yaotl is going to be able to whole lead here. We do see Kanden has 2 specials online, that Crab and that Booyah Bomb coming out in succession as they start working their way up to that zone. Holding that Booyah perhaps here for a lockout, given the members of Yaotl are currently out of their own spawn. And that means Kanden here getting nearly below their penalty. I question if they're going to be able to pull lead here, given the players on the field is shifting rather quickly to Yaotl's advantage, especially with that pick on the stamp there from the leader, who does unfortunately have to back thanks to the Kraken expiring. A lot of smoke and no fire, Pat.
I mean, Yaotl are taking fights, but Kanden is taking space right there. And we see the blaster from Yaotl getting behind everybody, getting above the zone, but that blaster can't really paint by itself. The bubbler is deployed, but the bubbler is deployed a bit too late. Kanden still in control right there. Yaotl are in control of both of the zones now, but they had to fight with everything they had.
Yeah, and quickly, in order to prevent that bubble from going to waste, right? All the blasters skirmishing from losing its value, pushing up very quickly and capitalizing off of that by the skin of their teeth. Very surprising play out there from Yaotl, as we do see Kanden neutralizing one of those zones, but very chipped, very weak, and does have to back, as we do see Yaotl nearly clearing their penalty as these specials come out flying from Kanden. This penalty is cleared, but they still have quite a ways to go before being able to pull lead, and they're already 2 down.
Yeah, Kanden able to get the retake, activating the tactical right after, which means they're ready for the next fight. Yaotl are ready as well, but they're coming in, and that blaster is always taking so much space, so many blasts. But that's not enough. Kanden are able to respawn faster thanks to that cooler, and one shot is forced to Kraken again. That Kraken is allowing one shot to take control of their snipe, but
yeah, that Kraken. Oh gosh. The Kraken enabling them to take more aggressive positions, and we see them being punished for it there, as we might find ourselves with a minute left in this game in our first 1-1 set of the day, if I recall correctly, Pat. Here we go! 5 picks remaining as Kanden walking away with game 2 after what looked very decisive in favor of Yaotl for the first 2.5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I mean, great moves by Kanden there, taking control over this game. And as you said, we have a 1-1 on our hands. These teams, and we were talking about it during the break, most of these teams are speed-running these tournaments. There's a lot of 3-0s in there. We had to wait for Yaotl to Teotl because they were having a close set, and close sets are pretty rare today. We don't get much, but we get to see one on streams, Gab.
Yeah, to be fair, we have been seeing close fights, but the role that those fights are having overall in the story of a game lead those games being to lend those games to being very decisive. You know, so at this level, you lose one team fight, your opponents are getting 30 points. And that is a reality of this level of play, where your opponents have such, you know, give such salience to control of the zone.
Yeah, and right now Kanden are riding that momentum. Yaotl, because they don't have a tactical, they know that they need to win an extra team fight if they want to get the same amount of space, if they want to get the same speed right there. And Yaotl is going to open with the first splat and with the second splat as well. But Kanden are very much in a bad spot right there. So the force to fight by themselves are going to be punished, and Yaotl in control of the zone, making a few points.
What surprises me so much about these team fights is that, you know, we're seeing these 4v4s where it ends up being a 3v1 or a 2v1, and there's just consistently one player left standing on the opposing side that provides enough stim for their team to either push off of or buys enough time for respawns, so that way their opponents take less space than they might have been hoping. And that's what we saw there with that Stamper. What we're seeing now with Yaotl Total continuing to look towards that elbow, knowing that all of the members of Kanden are currently out of spawn. The Pen looking towards that elbow as we see Callie backing very close to that whale, going to provide some very precious chip on the members of Kanden as they're trying to re-engage their one opportunity to do it. 2 members down on the side of Yaotl, maintaining control, but they have a player left in Kraken. It's just the brush. Piggy's down. That's just one shot, and with it, Kanden able to keep themselves in the game. Unbelievable, Pat.
It is not over, but what an opening control by Yaotl. Getting to 4 points now. Kanden know that they need to play for the KO. They need to hold longer and longer. Yaotl now preparing their next push, activating the whale to move people around, force their way in, and it's working pretty well. 2 down onto Kanden, and the zone is back in blue, Scap.
One Shot here working their way forward, trying to help their teammates get the pick on Silver there. We do see Pinky fighting Silver with that brush, going to go down. Very favorable matchup there for Silver. One Shot still holding that elbow, patiently waiting for their opponents to overextend as Mia pops that Booyah Bomb, going to neutralize the zone with it, and Cap applying penalty to Yaotl, but they really don't need to worry about points. Their lead is that massive, and they take that zone right on back.
Yeah, we're halfway through the game, and Yaotl has that monster lead that they know they can play off of right now. But Kanden is coming back with all their power, getting so many splats. One Shot, the last player standing for Yaotl, is forced out and gets splatted as well. But Kanden overcommitting after that push, as Yaotl already respawned and are already in a great position to defend.
Now's the time to perhaps start evaluating the cap, as we do see Kanden getting close to that penalty. It's just the pen, and with as little effort as cutting a knife through hot butter. That made no sense. You know exactly what I mean. Recapping that zone. I'll be impressed if Yaotl can cut a knife with a stick of butter.
That better be some very, very strong butter. But right now, Kanden are still fighting for that zone, doing whatever they can. It's 2 vs 2 with the two gals fighting, the gal and the Splash fighting each other. Kanden are holding the zone, and they don't have penalty right now.
Yeah, but 2 members down on the side of Kanden. One Shot coming in with that Kraken from behind. We do see the jump failed to be camped by the blaster on the side of Yaotl, as Yaotl is very close to capping that zone. Does do so and applying again that aforementioned very precious penalty. Callie popping that whale, perhaps to prevent some sort of neutralization or aggression beyond Kanden's elbow, as they are forced to back. Kanden having this crab, if that crab gets set up an elbow right here, right now, that is it. Devastating crab here, forcing Yaotl to work their way back in and burn resources here, as Kanden clears the penalty.
Yeah, no penalty, only 45 seconds left into this game, and Kanden are going in just a few points away from the lead. Yaotl preparing the push, coming together. Kali activating that brush next to the zone. There's just a few points left, but Yaotl is there to pay. They need to apply penalty. Kanden is taking back control, and with the Booyah Bomb, they're gonna take the lead.
Oh my gosh, it's just what? That's the game! Oh.
And, wow. What a comeback by Kanden.
Gosh. Yeah, the crab in the elbow, GG. Ego's crab, game-changing timeline. In terms of the, what are the outcomes that can happen because of this action, where we have Ego popping that crab in the elbow? Well, number one, you now have a lot of chip in a claustrophobic area of the map that is a forced drop, just like Inkblot. Number two, now we're burning specials and burning resources, possibly our lives, to clear a splash out of our elbow, which ultimately they did manage to get that pick. But by the time they got that pick, Silver had Zipcast. Your players can't organize and all be shoot at the same thing with the Zipcast removing them. Before you know it, in the blink of an eye, it's just your leader. Yeah, the right special in the right position can really turn the tide of the game, give you 20, 30, 40 points right there. And Kanden were able, despite a huge opening push by Yaotl, to come back to get the victory, and now to be up 2-1 in this set. One more game is all they need to get the victory, but that game is not going to be an easy one. I mean, we've seen both of these teams play incredibly well, and we're going to Barnacle and Dime, which means we're going to see these strong holds. Another crab tank could decide the game, Scap. Interesting that you mentioned crab. I'm also thinking that maybe we see both teams hopping back over to leader, because what? Oh, never mind. I take it back. Baka, you know what? Baka opting to stick with pen, and that's cool. Good for you. But yeah, I just think that leader on this map, which is Speaking of very small changes in elevation for the majority of the map, leader is something that can find a lot of strength here. Even seeing the switch to the Luna Blaster Neo on the side of Yaotl for that stamp, that is a surprising pick as well.
The one game that Kanden lost was the game where Bake had the Elita, so I can't blame them for sticking to the pencil. We know that pencil works, whatever the map mode, so pretty good idea for them. And right now it's working pretty well for Kanden. They have control of the zone, they have the lead, and all of Yaotl are stuck behind, but they get the splat onto Silver, and with 2 down onto Kanden, Yaotl is already back on the zone.
High key, Kraken is so busted on leader. You push the leader, oops, they're gone. Oh, the leader is forced to drop in a situation where they might be taken out by a lone S-Blast. Oh, well, it's a good thing they have Kraken. Just brute forcing their own snipe there and getting set back up. We can see that Yaotl reaping the advantages of that, pulling lead there as we see Callie in this 1v1 with Ego in their crab. No value at all coming out of that crab as Ego takes this fight with Lex as they're trying to push in further, does win that. But again, here we go with Inca just sitting back, throwing fizzies, maintaining space, probably going to take out the flank here. Does not do so, but fingers crossed that situation remains controlled behind them.
Yeah, Kanden able to apply penalty stop. The deluge of points by Yaotl, but Yaotl is back on the attack, getting more a wipe out again, as you said. The busted Kraken doing huge work, turning that leader into a front line.
I think that this Luna Blaster is doing so much more work compared to that Vanilla Blaster. Between the fizzies here to hold the chokes and then the stamps as well in order to be able to forcibly shut down that crab and whatever other HP special is being chucked in their face like that Booyah. It's just doing such a beautiful job so far. And we see this whale coming out as with the Zipcaster and the Booyah are out as well. Callie pushing up with it, does get punished for that overextension, but man, good cap there, but we'll see how long they manage to hold it, given the specials on the side of Yaotl.
And Kanden are back onto the zone, but Kanden not managing to really put themselves ahead of the zone, which means Yaotl is back on the attack with another Kraken and getting a punish on the S-Blast, and back to snipe safely and soundly. One shot, great plays with that Kraken, and 2 down onto Kanden right there. Yaotl simply about to get rid of their penalty.
Yeah, and the fact that they managed to get the pick on Baka on that pen as they were very close to Cooler is going to enable them to break this penalty. That crab coming out, this time they don't have the stamp to deal with it. We do see them losing 1 shot on that lead. Booyah neutralizes the zone, but they're going to be able to maintain that neutral. Not for long, though, as we do see Inca chucking that stamp at the 52, does manage to get that pick. Beautiful re-engagement there from Kanden. And now, for the first time in a while, we have the members of Yaotl really not on their snipe.
Yeah, Yaotl, back on the attack. It's a 2v2, and the Luna is still roaming around. Luna spells danger for Kanden right there. Everywhere that Luna is, Kanden is forced to move away because there is so much danger from that weapon. Yaotl still with the lead, making good points. 2 down onto Kanden, looking to get a bit more. Kanden, they need to push, and they have numbers disadvantage right now.
Yeah, with what re-engagement special? We got double whale, we got hammer, we got Kraken, right? And with that, we can see Yaotl setting out the strongest lockout that we've seen so far this morning, and taking game 4, tying up our set 2-2, and putting us in the first game 5 scenario of our block this morning, Pat. Way to wrap it up with a bang.
These 2 teams are going the distance. These 2 teams are showing us what a competitive high-level game is. And to finish it all, we are going to what in my heart is still the classic Splatoon 3 zones map. It's Hagglefish Market.
I could not ask for anything else at this stage of the tournament. If this was not the first map mode that you played in competitive Splatoon 3, where were you? Man, expect to see some very exciting flowcharts here on this map, given how practiced it should be for everyone.
Yeah, it's a well-oiled machine every time we see this, especially for these teams that have been practicing together. They've played this map over and over and over against all sorts of teams, all sorts of comp, which means they have a plan. They know how to counter the other. They know what the other is about to do, because there aren't that many ways to play the map. They can play, they can do it, and honestly, we've seen so much back and forth between these two teams. I have no idea what's about to happen.
You mentioned there's only so many ways to play this map, and I started disassociating a little bit over here, thinking about a crab on top of Hunt, which, I mean, we should expect to see, right? The crab has been a difference maker for Kanden. And the Luna also having a way to deal with that crab for your poor backline, as well as that booyah. Just a quick 2-tap with that hammer and they're gone.
Yeah, I hope we see that Luna again. That Luna was working so well. And I mean, it was on fire. And Kanden didn't know what to do against the Luna. And they have 5 minutes to figure it out now.
And here we go. Game 5 here for our SendouQ Season 7 finale. This is the 4th round of our group stage, so both of these teams still have one more set to go after this. But this will be one that sets them up to tie break out of Top Cut, particularly if you are Kanden. You need to walk away with this set to have a shot at it. Yaotl could be putting their first set on the board this morning. Let's see how the next 5 minutes go, Pat.
Yeah, well, the next 5 minutes are starting pretty well for Kanden, who are getting 3 down onto Yaotl. One shot, forced to move around with the leader, but he's holding the position. He's going to allow the rest of the team to come back on the attack legs. No fear going in with that 52 Gao, and able to get a few good splats. Kanden is forced out. Very nice answer by Yaotl.
And we do see one shot in that Kraken very far forward, rotating back to the zone to set up an anchor position. We see 2 members of Kanden dropping on that left side, going to pressure out both Pinky and one shot. Mia and Silver in that zone, looking forward very aggressively. We do see that Silver is punished for it as those strikes do come out. That means that they're not going to have those strikes here for Yaotl's retake, which should be happening shortly, given we've got the first of those whales online. As those whales come out, so does that Stamp and that Kraken, leading to a very decisive recap for Yaotl, who again, they don't have anything else left to situate here for the retake as these strikes hit the zone.
Yeah, Kanden answering with the strike, but the strikes are not enough to take control over the zone yet. Kanden needs to follow through with the subs and main weapons right now. Lots of paints on the zone. This time it's going to be enough. Kanden able to take some control, and now we see both teams facing each other above the zone. Kanden has the edge of a splash, which does allow them to paint a little more.
Yeah, we do see the Zipcaster trying to get the pick on the members of Yaotl on that right side of the map, as they were rather grouped up. Do they know that there's a flank from the left? They do, but they don't. And we do see Silver getting what appears to be 3, as Kanden is able to cap that zone, nearly clear their penalty, start working their way forward, and get control of Yaotl's snipe here. This is not a position that I want my opponent in, quite literally ever. Regardless, we are going to be seeing Kanden walking away with at least 20 points here, as both teams find themselves 2 down, especially with Yaotl working their way out of spawn. Another member goes down, Pat. This is dangerous.
Yeah, Kanden holding incredibly strong right there, really changed the pace of the game. Yaotl have been pushed back, pushed away. I need to prepare a big push. The hammer is deployed. That hammer needs to find its mark. It's not right now. Yaotl needs to run at the zone. Kanden deploying the strikes. They don't have the paint.
Oh my!
They don't have the paint.
God.
That's the problem for Yaotl. They only had the Gal and the brush to paint, facing a splash and a pencil.
The Gal wasn't there.
Enough. Yeah, the
Gal wasn't there. Oh. the zone barely flipping to neutral at the end of the game there means that Kanden, you got to keep in mind, it looked like Yaotl was winning their fights there. They're dropping in with all 4 specials. They're getting the wipe. But in the end, it was Kanden who, once they saw that they had the opportunity to take Yaotl's plat, they did so. And you have to wonder how different the situation might have been if Yaotl did the same after their wipe. And the flank from Silver to break out of the lockout post-wipe, what was at least 2.5. It might have been 2 and an assist, or it might have been 3. It was hard to tell. Really enabling them to set up for the rest of the game. I think that would have played out very differently had the flank after the zip cast from Silver not been so successful.
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible set, very back and forth between these 2 teams. Cap, Kanden able to pull through, able to get the victory. That's going to be big for them going into the rest of this tournament. But Skep, it is the end for us. It's time for us to say goodbye.
Say goodbye? For how long, Pat?
Well, I'm going to be in chat watching the rest of this tournament. That's about 0 seconds technically, but we're just leaving the stream. So before we go, do you have something to plug?
No. Normally this is where I would say you will find me in Sendou desk, but I'm taking all of June off. So you can find me resting and recovering and living in my own lane and flourishing on Blue Sky, where I will be doing everything else other than TOing for the month of June. What about you, Pat?
Well, not much. You can find me on Twitter at the right here. If you remove the underscores, you can find me on Blue Sky, where I post a little bit more. And that's pretty much it. You can also find me quite often on Dapple Productions if you like good EU tournaments. That's going to be it for us. Thank you so much to Sendou for having us. Thank you to Justin for being our awesome observer. And stay tuned. There will be more to watch with Siren and Magic on the mic.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back, everybody, to the SendouQ finals here on IPL Splatoon. My name is Magic 8-Ball, and I am joined by one, the only Siren. We are the dynamic duo back, and Siren, how are you feeling today, even though you gave me a quick rundown of that earlier?
A little bit sick. I guess I'll fill in for the lore here. I'm a little under the weather after MomoCon, but otherwise I'm excited to do this. I was like, I've got to come here. I got to do the SendouQ finals. I got to lock in, because like when you get an opportunity like this, you have to take it no matter what. Exactly.
No, I'm the same way. I've been running around with like a chicken with its head sliced off by a stamper, but we're here. We've got FTWin versus Hypernova here in round 5, and I believe this is going to be an important match for deciding definitely the seeding of who gets to go to that top cut, right? FTWin sitting at 3-1, Metro sitting at 4-0. Those are the two that are in the spot right now, but Hypernova and Moonlight are still on that 2-2. And so if they win and Moonlight wins, we're going to have 3 teams tied at 3-2, and it's going to be a very fun decider for a fun to see how that decision gets to go to top cut. But for right now, I think we're starting on Umami Ruins for this round 5, and I believe we're already ready to go, so let's jump right in.
Ooh, I'm excited. I'm ready to like take a peep at these comps. I've been looking at this a little bit today. I think Sam playing earlier with FTWin, if I remember correct. So that's really exciting. I'm a big fan, as you might know. Right off the bat here, we're seeing some very like typical 2024 comps, but I can't even say I'm disappointed. I really like seeing that ink brush coming out from Dat Kid. So weapon diversity is a big thing for me.
And Inkbrush, I've been seeing a bit more of, and like both Octobrush and Inkbrush. And I think it's so interesting how those are not resurfacing, but they're still able to be a little bit viable even in this very hectic kind of meta that we're seeing. Speaking of hectic, this initial scrap is definitely going to be throwing a lot of bodies down. But all in all, looks like Hypernova has the first stand, the first hold. They're trying to keep FTWin at bay in their field. And all in all, is solid play from Hypernova so far.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of these players move up, even though they had a 2-man down disadvantage there, still maintaining a lot of pressure for the time being, making sure they get that lead up there. But as I say that, Pina for the win, moving up, getting that pick onto Dat Kid, and we see them getting very far, even further than Hypernova got into their base earlier, and just getting into this position to try and lock out here. Bert staying safe, trying to see that they have a crab almost at the ready there, and basically now we're just going to start raining down those specials, making sure that even though they have that tacticooler up, they are not able to pursue these zones whatsoever.
Oh, and the Wiper stepping just a little bit too far. Henlo maybe getting a slight bit overzealous, but with the Whale firing off and another one at the ready, it seems like they have at least something trying to get going, but FTWin is just so precise on these lockouts. They're so fast, they know exactly when to move up, when to go back slowly and throw some bombs and chuck out some specials to keep them down. Only right now we're starting to see the first peg fall for FTWin and the zone getting neutralized on the right side, but Kyo has something to say about it. Signups goes down. All in all, FTWin's defenses slowly crumbled, but they're not completely out of it, and they can easily turn this thing back around.
Popping that crab on that right side here is looking to maintain some level of pressure, allow those jump ins to happen for FTWin, and not let Hypernova get into a lockout position that we've seen earlier here. You want to be able to enable players like Dat Kid to move up, kind of rain chaos into their base and just sit around these zones here and leave FTWin with questions and a lack of knowledge on where those player bases are. So ultimately getting behind here, almost taking, well, actually able to take out Bert entirely, and that's just going to be Lexi, who's able to get into this great defensive position here, stand on top of the zones there, and get some knowledge for their team. Let them know where the members of FTWin are pooling in from, like Kyo here, getting onto top mid, has those strikes ready, and says, hey, I'm not giving up that lead too easy right now.
Oh, 2 going down on the side of FTWin. We're going to have to see how Kyo and the teammate react to this. Sam able to get the jump in. There's 2 down on the side thanks to a zip caster from Sam. The zones are going back towards FTWin's favor. The pencil on the side of Hypernova jumps out, but all of a sudden, on the other side of the map, it seems like Synapse and another member of Hypernova are able to take down a couple members of FTWin. It's such a scrappy match right now, and we're not seeing that explosiveness from FTWin pay fully off.
Yeah, 2v1 with Burt. Burt opts to jump out of that. A very smart decision, in my opinion. You hold that lead right now. You don't want to get into a wiping position. So now we're looking at Hello on that right side there, just looking for these members of FTWin. Has that stamp at the ready. Is going to wait for more of an approach to toss that, but sees that crab tank come out. Says, let me get that out of the way as soon as possible. Burt able to dodge that and is able to get around it for now. But ultimately here, FTWin, it seems to just be draining down this clock as much as possible, not playing too risky, not going into as far of a lockout as we saw earlier on in this game. You can't play it too tough right now because any sort of wipe is going to cause them to lose that lead right now.
That was such a calculated play to get back from that lockout situation, and then on top of that, just slowly making their way into the enemy base, and then getting a couple of bombs and picks. That was just beautiful coordination. Speaking of beautiful, how about this play from Henlo? A nice rolled torpedo, able to find Kyo and get some folks down, and then going in with that whale. This means that it's a great lockout position. 20 seconds left on the map for Hypernova. They have one chance to keep these members of FTWin at bay. They did a good job of negating their specials last time, but they just let too much forward momentum last time before this lockout. Let's see if they're able to put it to a stop now.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit worried here. That cooler and that stamp came out very early, but now we're seeing a pick coming out there. Dat Kid going down as well. Pino for the one getting behind them, not allowed to pop that zone, and now they're just counting down that timer. That zone is very blue looking, and it looks like it's just a fight for both zones. They can't hold both at the same time, and that is going to be the game for FTWin, but only narrowly.
Wow, and that was such a clutch zipcaster from Sam. Perfectly timed, perfectly executed, knowing exactly which player to go for and how to make sure that they never felt comfortable trying to paint that zone when it was that last few seconds in overtime. That's the kind of precision plays that FTWin brings to the table that other teams struggle to make happen, especially in those clutch moments, and just perfect execution.
Well, looks like we're going into Lemuria Hub, which is a map I can't say I see very often in competitive Splatoon nowadays. I don't think anyone sees it too often. It's one of those asymmetrical maps, and I think we took some of the other ones from Splatoon 2 that we didn't like so much for granted, because now this is what we're dealing with, right? I hate to sound so toxic about a certain map mode, but I don't know, it's more or less how I feel, right? It's a very, like, I've never felt like a map was unfair for being asymmetrical until this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like there was always some sort of points of advantage you could take, but
that top mid area is just so, you never actually are able to stand there safely, but it's also like the like a really bad place to stand anyways, but it's also so necessary if you want to break that mid hold. Like it's just so awkward is the way that I like to frame it, because you can't get good spots half the time. But they're seeming to find good spots up here on the top side of the map instead. Burt with a beautiful crab to start things off, and FTWin coming out guns blazing.
Yeah, we're seeing this great positioning once again from FTWin, spotting these remaining members of Hypernova just hanging out on their upper levels here. They have those zones capped, so now it's just a matter of keeping everybody at bay. That stamp is going to be coming out, but it is very short-lived, and now Hypernova once again on that back foot, left to recuperate without one of their teammates. Has some specials at the ready there, but they have to play this very safe. A lot of paint being rained down on them right now, and that is a very unfortunate DC, but I think it's actually going to be a replay.
Well, either way, the match got taken away, put on pause, we'll say, and hopefully we're going to see that restart. I expect, even if the rules don't say so, I expect a gentleman's off of that one.
I mean, yeah, it was less than a minute in, and it was prior to the 50 seconds or 50 points ticked down as well. So I imagine that'll be the case. It was very early, but you know, I also wouldn't mind if we just went to the next map anyways.
Right, I mean that's what they said. They were like, actually, we're just gonna move on after this one. Why not just
about this?
No, and I think right now it's so interesting. I'm thinking back on Hypernova's comp, and it is so aggressive, whereas FTWin's is a bit more like play at range, play for those damage combos, and use those specials mainly to break in and break open the map. Right, which is, it's just such a classic FTWin, even back in Splatoon 2. I mean, that's what they were doing the best then, and they seem to be even more on top of that now when it's a more hectic kind of environment with specials. Right, I think that's the difference between S2 and S3, is that the specials timing can be a lot more chaotic.
Oh,
did it happen again?
I think we gotta change hosts or something, or maybe
I would expect so.
I don't know if the game is still happening. Actually, there's a very realistic possibility right now that the game is happening and that we are the ones who aren't in it.
The folks from On High are telling us that it is not happening, that we are not missing any of the action. We're just gonna have to figure out what's going on with that hosting situation. We love Nintendo Online, but yeah, no. All in all, I think if Hypernova wants to have success, they need to find a better way to position that brush, but they don't really have a ton of paint to make that happen, right?
I was kind of feeling that way during that first game, that like every time FTWin had them locked out, it's like the worst position to have a brush in, especially when you have people watching every single angle. You want to have brush be able to kind of sneak out there to open up spaces for your team, but without the ability to do that, like you kind of need to rely on your other three team members to wedge open that door a little bit first.
And like, it's almost like the way a brush gets in is not like super similar, but like kind of similar to how a junior gets in, except you don't have the second bomb, right? Like you can't send out the two bombs to give yourself like a buffer zone, right? You only have the one. You're trying to like dip and dive around, and you don't have the range to really like make significant progress yourself. And so it's just hard unless you're like able to successfully roll around and dip and dodge to get into those positions that you want.
I suppose, but to be honest, from speaking from experience, I feel like it's a little bit easier to brute force your way in if you're a junior. Like you have a bubble, you can
right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So that's the difficulty here. So I'll be looking forward to, now that we're actually getting to play this game, see what's up.
Let's see what is up, and hopefully what is up is Henlo all the way up into the FTWin side of the map, finally dipping back out, but preventing them from really getting a good hold on that side and getting a lot of orange paint down on that side. You can see it really opens up the bottom of the map for them to get that first cap on the zone and get a nice pick on Kyo before the strikes come out. Very important special, no longer at the use. Although it seems like Kyo was cooler and is going to be right back in action. Sam finally getting that Zipcaster, and here come those strikes. That's going to be a zone at least neutralized. Let's see if Hypernova can turn this around. Does not seem like it.
Yeah, it's looking pretty rough here. Getting Sam into a great position, has that trade with that kid, but that is going to force Hypernova to basically jump out of what is normally like their territory. So we're getting burnt in these really good spots. We can see that we're building up these special. Has that crab tank at the ready. We're sitting on that high ground as well, just waiting for the members of Hypernova to approach. That stamp is going to be coming out once again, and just like last time, it is going to be very short-lived. So now it's just a matter of Hypernova finding ways of getting back in without relying on these kinds of specials. It whiffs the pick onto Bursty as well there, and now it looks like we're just wedging our way back into zone, but like I just don't know how they get past the defense of having that pencil on the bridge there.
Seems like the pencil finally backed off and not able to get significant pressure from that bridge, and was feeling kind of unstable, but now the members of FTWin seem to be creating a nice forward front and are able to push back and get that pencil back into position. I think Henlo was really struggling to make use of those ultra stamps, was struggling to use it normally on the ground in that first game in Umami Ruins, and I think the strategy changed to maybe I could just throw it at the crab when it gets popped. But speaking of crab, it's going to pop one member of Hypernova. Finally, though, the whale comes through and is able to dislodge the members of FTWin, jumps back, and they're back in action. This is such a quick turnaround.
Yeah, I really like that waiting and usage of that killer whale coming out from Synapse there. We're seeing Dat Kid kind of work in conjunction with it, moving up and targeting the other people that you can see those lasers are pointing towards. So once again, now we have a really good dominant position here. Bert is popping that crab onto the base of FTWin, but it's just going to be Bert left alongside that pencil. That cooler is going to come out and make Kanden getting the pick onto Dat Kid, but now we're seeing a lead reclaim from the members of Hypernova and still getting picks onto the board.
Gale getting picks on the board. Lexi doing a wonderful job at keeping these players at bay, especially this Stamper, but now it seems like it's turned around, not able to find a good angle. There's a Zipcaster that's about to start flying, but no! Another great pick from that pencil of Lexi. There's 14 ticks left, and we are needing to see a miracle from FTWin if they want to jet onto this zone. Burst bombs are flying, Zipcaster's in. It's not going to be enough. That's going to be a turn around from Hypernova when they were struggling to get a hold in that match. All of a sudden, one pick from Lexi on Sam as they were about to drop down, and that's all it took.
I really think that pick on Bert towards the end was very crucial. Getting that splash-o-matic and one of their best zone recapping specials out of that group out of the way was able to allow them to just stand and paint and hold everything over FTWin's head.
Exactly. It felt like they were just trying to bait them forward, and they were doing so successfully. Mm-hmm. And especially with double whale, right? Like, how do you even manage to convince people that you have a good setup when all of a sudden you're having to dip and dodge around and taking so much damage that can just, in combination with the pencil, get a super long range presence even when you have hyper aggressive short range CQC weapons, right? And then all of a sudden you're falling into those ranges. That was really, really solid, and I'm glad that Hypernova found their groove towards the end of that, because it really looked like they were struggling at first.
Yeah, even through that first game there, I was kind of losing a little bit of confidence in how they were going to be able to move into FTWin and hold spaces with that comp. But I think I'm starting to finally see that vision and what they had pictured going on there. So really, really good to see everything coming together for them, and we're already jumping in here to Undertow. Once again, another double zone map. We haven't gone to a single zone splat zone map for this set whatsoever.
So we are 1-1 in this set. The other set going on right now is Moonlight versus Metro, which is 2-2. This set is so important to determining who goes to the finals, who goes to the top bracket, and it is going to be a slobber knocker, and I'm so glad I got to use that term here back on the cast. We are 30 seconds into this match, and we've got already a lot of members going down constantly. These coolers need to be up, they need to be ready, and you finally see one getting flown from Hypernova. Lexi has been doing a fantastic job, might I say.
Yeah, I love the spacing that Lexi has employed in her positioning. Getting to use her own coolers and bouncing back behind, finding that Zipcast chasing after her, is able to dodge that for now, and painting that zone by herself. It's just going to be Bursty left onto the side of FTWin here. Now backing up, has that crab tank at the ready. I don't anticipate a jump out happening. I don't think most people are looking to target Bursty right now. It feels like we're getting pretty comfy in the zone. Synapse setting himself up pretty well with these splash walls. Has that killer whale, if he wants to use that as well, is going to be using it, getting some information for their team, and we can send out the troops now and start that fight.
Let's send in the troops, although it seems like they're not feeling confident to step up. One more whale gets fired after the specials get popped on the side of FTWin. Again, the special timing is just so important, right? Making sure that you're not committing to that kind of forward movement when the enemy has their specials online, and because of that, they're able to get these trades, they're able to push the members of FTWin back and get Lexi to start moving forward, putting on that pressure, moving forward the bubble of their team. Although now, again, we just see constant special usage from FTWin that is putting on so much good pressure on this zone and on the members. Although it's 2-2 now, Kyo finds a fantastic pick, and Siren adds a wipeout for FTWin.
Kyo making great use of those ledges there, is able to pick off 3 members onto the side of Hypernova. It looks like we're kind of trying to spot out that 4th person here, getting Rafa set up on this glass area. Those whales are coming out once again, and I kind of respect both of these teams for understanding that this map can't be so campy. You have to sit back in the zone a little bit to some degree. There's not quite the same number of like, okay, we can run into their spawn and then we can stop them from dropping in, because ultimately we're looking at like a giant bowl here. Whoever's spawning in has the high ground, so ultimately you kind of want to force them to fight on your terms as well. So we're seeing a lot of like staying back, not getting too greedy. Henlo popping onto this left zone here, and that's going to be a cap once again for Hypernova. FTWin not able to reclaim that lead despite that amazing triple coming out from Kyo earlier, and now we're seeing all these specials getting dispensed out from FTWin, saying, all right, let's give it another try.
They may not have gotten the lead that time, but they're definitely going to be gunning for it this time. That's exactly the kind of play that they like to utilize, right? They know exactly when they have to back up so that they can get a longer term advantage. They can get something more beneficial in that future sight. They have the zones capped now. That is going to be the lead switch. Barely, finally, Hypernova getting to that zone just a touch too late. Bird is in that crab rolling around, able to find the pick on Henlo. 3v3 so far, and there's members of FTWin on the center of the map. They're getting collapsed on in that bowl formation. Psyops finally sending the whale, but it's still very late. That crab is able to come out once again from Bercy. How is he getting so many of these? But that's another zone switch. Hypernova able to hold on just a little bit longer.
Yeah, I like what FTWin is doing here right now. Not quite backing up all the way, kind of playing it a little bit safe. We're seeing these killer whales getting popped by the members of Hypernova once again. And we're sort of looking at whatever angle can be challenged the easiest. It seems like Dat Kid is just sort of holding things down pretty well on the left side by himself. You can kind of see the apprehension from Sam dropping in on that side, not quite wanting to commit super hard without knowing who's lurking behind those corners. Does go down in the process, unfortunately, and now those penalty points ticking down. We're getting very close to looking at raw numbers here. Bert popping that crab onto the zone once again. That's going to be Henlo on that sword going down, and that could be kind of rough for them right now, though. Although we do know how aggressive Henlo has been playing things here. Definitely more of a glass cannon, if anything.
That glass cannon is going to be essential to figuring out when the members of FTWin can move in or not, because Henlo is going to be at the front lines, at the ready. That Synapse going down, though. Dickhead going down again. Unfortunately, after jumping right back in, there's 2 members alive of Hypernova, but 1 going down. That's not going to be enough pain to Henlo, but the only one left alive, and it's going to get collapsed on. Oh, so close for Hypernova in the last stretch of that match, but not going to be able to hang on there. They just had so much pressure from the members of FTWin. It felt like it was just constant abuse of the crabs, constant strikes pushing them back, and constant picking off of key members that were painting and putting on annoying pressure for the rest of their team.
Yeah, I mean, what a close game ultimately when you look at it, and I'm kind of interested to see how the dynamics will change going into Brinewater Springs, knowing that this is a single zone map, but also this is a very like funnely one at that. Like, there's a lot of ways to enter in from, but you still have that one primary point where most of those fights happen on that corner. You have like these kind of like irrelevant spaces surrounding the zone, but are kind of essential to watching because they're so flank heavy. It's honestly, like, I have a lot of disrespect for this map, but I also have a lot of respect at the same time, because It's so unique in how it has to be played.
Right, and it really is one of those things where it's like, all right, I know that there's a correct way to play this. It doesn't feel great, but there is like an understanding that you have to go through, right? Like, there is the stages of going through, right? Like you have to follow it, and it's so frustrating at times, but it can also be rewarding when you finally break through and get all the way to the enemy side. I'm very curious to see if we'll see any comp changes, because I know some leaders really like to just switch off the pencil and play leader here.
Yeah, I do consider that, but also when I look at these particular players, I don't quite anticipate that happening, especially on something like Zones. When you understand that you have Lexi that you're playing against, who's like known to be a strong pencil player, understanding like, okay, if anything is going to cap the zone in like a split second, it's going to be that pencil. Like, it's not as strong of a painter as it has been in the past, but you know, compare that to a leader, then you're kind of in trouble.
Right. No trade-offs here. Just sticking to the... Actually, that is a change. Synapse opting for the 52 deco with curling, which is very good on this map, to be fair, and the wall to try and maybe just prevent that kind of open space from time to time. Yeah, exactly. Using it on the zone to allow them to have a little bit of a smokescreen, move forward, push the members of FTWin into a corner, and though they're going to be able to zip cast out, they're going to put Henlo in a fantastic spot.
I love having Henlo all the way up there. DatKid is going to play cleanup a little bit, pops that bomb down onto that zip cast, but the timing's going to be a little bit off. This is going to be a bit of a clear out here from the members of Hypernova. We're back onto that zone there, but Sam opting to move up before that cap is captured. Bert standing on top of that crab tank, pushing Lexi back as far as possible here. And now this is the point of the game where FT1's going to be able to enter into the base of Hypernova.
What I'm really seeing is that it feels like Hypernova just does not have a great answer to Bursty, to Bert's crab. Like, it just constantly is able to put the pressure on them and using it right when they don't have whale, and that is going to be a lead change for FTWin. 64 points on the board, 64 points remaining, and they're still putting on pressure. Hypernova is struggling to try and even enter the middle of the map right now, and I think that's because they just don't have a lot of paint, they don't have a lot of room to move, and then these specials come out that just shut them down, and they're seeing that once again.
Yeah, I really like the spaces that I've been seeing DatKid occupy, but it's going to be so rough when you have all these sub-weapons, just tossing them over that wall blindly. Surely you're going to be able to hit somebody who's trying to re-enter the map at some point, while we still have that pencil set up at the bottom. That splatter color screen is going to be coming out. Thankfully, we don't have to stare at that monochrome for too much longer. And now, specials coming out onto the side of Hypernova. We're seeing Henlo run into the zone here, is getting pushed back by the pencil on the side of FTWin here, but is able to skirmish and take out Bert. That's huge.
That's massive. That's a very, very important one. That's going to be the main painter for FTWin going down, and the main kind of, like, finish off damage chip, right? Now we're seeing the members of Hypernova finally push into the FTWin side of the map with a bit more conviction. And I think it might have been a little bit too much gusto. DatKid's going to try and make something happen. Is able to take down Kyo, who was in the middle of strikes, and is going to be dipping around the zipcaster, and is going to be trying to paint their way out, and is able to find the pick on the jump landing. That's so important for DatKid on this Hypernova team to get a little bit more of a foothold. They've got the cooler up. They can go in one more time. This might be a lead change if they can just keep the zone painted.
I think I saw a little bit of anxiety in the way that Hypernova was playing a little bit earlier. You could see that their special meters were reaching up a little bit high. They were getting into the base of FTWin. They're almost having that splatter color screen. They wanted to be able to pop that and move up as far as possible, but I think in the process was taken out a little bit too early because they may have gotten a bit greedy trying to take that space and retrieve it. But now, once again, getting that cap, this could be the push that they were looking for earlier. Synapse finally having that screen, able to move into the base with Henlo alongside him. We don't have much special, but that cooler is going to be coming out. That is going to allow them to play this a little bit more dangerously, go for a higher reward here. Bert is going to be popping that crab tank, though, a little bit far from the zone, but is doing their best to try and keep these members like Synapse away from him as far as possible.
That's DatKid. That's a lead change for Hypernova. DatKid's all the way in the base. Is almost going to be able to get two with that coolered up run forward. And honestly, I think this is what we need to see. I think we need to see DatKid being the one that's putting on this forward aggressive pressure because he's just able to find these picks so consistently. That's going to be Lexi going down from, I think, a stray burst bomb and slosh. And that's FTWin able to take this in the last minute of the game, put on the penalty points, and is going to start chunking down their penalty. And they've got the specials at the ready to try and counter this breakout from Hypernova.
Yeah, they've got to play this very carefully here. They do have that lead, about 30 seconds left on the board to go. So really, ultimately, what they want to just do is apply some more penalty points, make sure that FTWin can't stay in this much longer. It's just going to be Synapse left. Now it's just going to be Synapse and that kid. That screen is going to be coming out, but I know that's going to be enough. Kyo is running right at his face. Henlo is going to come over, try to play cleanup. It is going to go down. It's just going to be that kid trying to pin the zone. Is able to neutralize it for a little bit longer. Now we're down to 20 ticks on the board.
How did Kyo take down Synapse, who was dodging perfectly, Henlo, who had just jumped in, and then throw a tri-strike at the zone to take down Dat Kid? I mean, how do you play against that? How do you play against someone who has the reaction time and knowledge to throw everything everywhere so precisely? It's just insane how much work this man can do and has done for like 7 years straight. Oh my god.
I have no words. I would have loved to see a game 5 in this set, but FTWin just very like dominantly coming in at the end there, just taking out the picks that they needed to. Even when it looked very like clear, like there was a path for Hypernova to win, they put a boulder in it.
Yeah, exactly. That boulder named Kyo. That was insane. I need to go watch that. I'm going to be watching that. I'm going to be showing that to like whoever will listen, because that was crazy. So that's FTWin taking that set and looking at the standings. They are moving into that second slot. Metro did go down to Moonlight, but because FTWin won that set, there was no tie for second place. In fact, it was a tie for first. FTWin and Metro were at 4-1. Moonlight is at 3-2. Metro and FTWin are going to be moving on to the top cut in this Group B. Oh, that is crazy. And that's because Metro won against FTWin, and then Moonlight beat Metro. And looking, FTWin... They play Moonlight. FTWin won against Moonlight 3-2.
Yes.
So it was a rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. And I do think that's quite interesting, because in the past they've sort of had a bit of a rivalry, right? So like seeing that get closer and closer and taking it to that game 5 that they did, like that's crazy. That's like some amazing strides for Moonlight.
Exactly. The fact that they've been putting on such a good showing against so many of these teams, I mean, really the only one that they might not have performed like what they were hoping to was a 3-0 loss against Hypernova. But other than that, it looked like they were so strong for the entirety of this tournament, of this group stage, and they've been doing so well in a number of other tournaments. Like, shout outs to them, obviously. Always want to give a shout out to the wonderful, wonderful people on Moonlight. We're not going to get to see them. We are going to get to see FTWin, Metro, Healthy Diet Food Groups, Hypernova, and Artifice, along with Moonlight, are getting out from Group B. And it looks like on the other side of the mat, the other side of the bracket, we're going to see Snails and Milky Way. Vanguard did not take down Milky Way. Seemed like they had a couple of good opportunities in a couple of those games from what I was seeing on the stream, on one of the players' streams. But Milky Way does eke it out. They're going to be going up against Metro in the semis, and they're also going to be, and then it's going to be Snails versus FTWin on the other side. And that, I thought I would have liked to see that for finals, but honestly, all of these matches are going to be so insane.
I'm so looking forward to things, and I know these teams have to jump right in from that pool stage and like tackle this, and that's got to be a lot of pressure for them. I'm sure a few people are like, that's right, I belong here, and I know a lot of people gunning for that top spot today, basically.
Right. Everyone, I don't think everyone feels like, oh, I belong here, but a lot of people wanted to prove that they belong there. And we have the 4 that made it happen, right? All in all, I'm very curious to see what this Snails versus FTWin match is going to hold. Snails was the #1 seed for this tournament, and FTWin was the 3 seed.
Oh. Okay. Well, I can see why. I'm like looking at both of these rosters right now. Oh, okay, and we are going to Snails versus FTWin as our map pick. So following FTWin in their journey throughout this tournament a little bit.
So it seems like FTWin was able to make a lot of headway early on. They had a couple, I don't want to call them easy matches, but they played Artifice and Healthy Diet, which were the two of the lower seeds in the group, and then they got into Moonlight, had that 5-game set, played Metro, went down, and then just came off of the set that we just watched. So it seems like they've had a mostly solid day, but it seems like it's been still a little bit tense in those matches against the stronger teams, which I wouldn't have expected. I could see against Metro. I think that Metro is my favorite to win the entire thing. And that might be a hot take, I don't know, but it seems to be holding up right now.
You know what? I can see it, and I'll root for players like Zenith. Anytime I see her, I'm rooting for her to win. So I'll support that judgment, if only just for my delusions. Otherwise, like, look, they've already gotten this far. Why not take it all the way to the end?
Now, on the Snails side of the bracket, it seems like they've only lost games to 2 teams, and that's been Vanguard, which they lost 2, and Kanden, which they lost 1. And Vanguard is not even in the top cut bracket. They 3-0'd Milky Way. Clean 3-0. I don't know how clean it was in the individual matches, but it seems like a 3-0 is a 3-0, right? we can call close 3-0s. But yeah.
I don't believe in close 3-0s. I don't know. I think a win is a win. I don't like looking at a scoreboard and going, yeah, that was 3-0, but either team could have won. Like, really? Do you really think that one, like, it's 3-0?
I'm the same way. Scoreboard is what matters. Although it seems like Snails, other than that, has not had too much trouble, and the team that they had the most trouble with is no longer in the tournament. I think that they have a pretty good shot of going up against Metro and having a crazy final set.
So we removed their kryptonite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Sometimes it does just come down to like rock, paper, scissors. You come against these teams that like have some really good comp that just counters yours very well. And when you remove that element from the equation, it's like, all right, who's gonna stop us now? No one.
Right. All in all, this is gonna be very exciting. We are going to throw this one back in there. For those of you who don't know, there's going to be an announcement at the end of the stream, so stay tuned for that. That's all we'll say. And all in all, there's going to be very solid Splatoon, very exciting Splatoon at the end of the stream. So be prepared for that as well. I believe there's someone in the bathroom. We're stalling for time, so.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, like, this is what, like a 5-hour tournament? Like, you gotta take a break at some point. We've been really, like, just pushing through the whole thing. At the end of groups is not when these teams probably want to be letting up and relaxing. I think it's probably the opposite. But at some point, it has to happen, right?
And, like, there's always the expectation, I feel like, that after groups there's like a little bit of a break. Right? I mean, that's always like when I went into a tournament and I thought, okay, there's 2 stages in the tournament. That means that there's usually a slot of time that you have in between the stages, otherwise why would there be stages? So I understand why they thought this was a good time.
Yeah, I guess so. Usually, like, there's some kind of, like, with the bigger tournaments, like, a little bit of reseeding, adjusting, if possible, just making sure everything's okay. it's a little different when you have like a total of 16 players who are going into the semifinals, but hey, we got to give them a break at some point, right? Let them get the water, stay hydrated. Other than that, like what's new with you, Magic? I didn't see you last week, so you know.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. I'll have to fill in the people after this match because we're getting back into the action. Semifinals, SendouQ finals for season 7 on IPL Splatoon. Let's get right back into it. We've got FTWin, we've got Snails, and we've got zones on.
Oh geez,
Bluefin. I couldn't even like I didn't even recognize it. There's a good crowd to start off.
As Splatoon veterans, and we don't even recognize the Splatoon 1 maps.
Right.
With the weird flip-floppy zone that moves left and right based on who has it capped. It's very very
wonky.
Yeah, I guess there's just no such thing as a map we won't play in this tournament, I suppose.
And they are playing it, and FTWin seems to be having the best time playing it right now. You see this S-Blast trying to get coordinated with the other specials, although it is going to go down to those strikes from Kyo. The cooler bouncing around and finally landing on that elevator. Seems like the members of Snails had the zone for maybe a quick second. I don't even know if have is really the correct term to use, but they've got 2 members of FTWin down. It's just going to be Bursty and Ruff trying to hold this thing together and get some jumps in. And Snails finally with their first good, solid push of the match.
Yeah, Snails does finally cap that zones for themselves. Now they're going to have to readjust with that zone, rotating to the other side of the map here. Burt popping that crab tank is just barely out of range of that Booyah bomb, but is able to catch them on the landing. So once again, that zone is going to get capped into the favor of FTWin. We're rotating back to the other side of the map. Cooler is getting popped out at the perfect time for them, thankfully not hovering in mid-air because it's confused about a platform. And Kyo going in for this flank, sees that wall there, is able to slosh over it, but notices the action is actually happening more towards that zone, is going to rotate for a bit, and really just try and take fights where they're suitable.
Oh, thought he had a little bit more room to jump over to the other side. Dipped back at the perfect time to jump out and is going to be able to reposition. FTWin is holding on. We're trying to keep things neutral, trying to just get set up for their next special push, and Sam unfortunately goes down with that Zipcaster. Bursty making a good use of this crab tank, but it is going to leave Hyo going down as well. That's Soldier doing a wonderful job using that slosher and pairing up with the team with the burst bombs to get some very much needed picks. This could be, gets fireworked. That's going to be the lead change at the very least, but FTWin is coming back with a vengeance.
Yeah, I really like the positioning that they've been able to take here right now. We're seeing Y kind of throwing back all these crab tanks we've been seeing from Burt thus far in the tournament, getting a bit of a taste of his own medicine here. And now that's going to be forcing FTWin to play positioning a little bit interesting here. We're seeing once again this crab tank from Burt on the right side there is able to clean up the S-Blast that's trying to camp that ledge there. And now we're dropping into that zone once again. This neutralization and back and forth is forcing the zone to kind of limbo back and forth between both sides of the map here. We're not really sure where is safe to stand at this point, but what is safe no matter what is going to be the shield of that crab tank.
It is going to be safe, and it is going to be lethal if the members of FTWin let it. Finally see them halting back, waiting for their own crab tank, and now we're seeing some movements forward. The Booyah Bomb gets thrown. The S-Blast does not go down. Finally gets a successful Booyah Bomb off, but Sam has something to say about it. That's 2 down on the side of Snails. FTWin looking to finally collapse, finally get this one going. But the members of Snails have something else that they want to do. That's the S-Blast taking 2 down. That is the members of Snails jumping back in, and though Bursty is up in their side of the base, they have full control, and it is going to be a very tense try and cap last minute for the FTWin.
Yeah, I mean, now we're down to that 20-point marking here. 57 takes for FTWin. They're going to try and shred through that Booyah Bomb once again, but a little too late. It's going to cap the zone once again. We do have that Zipcast ready, which has been causing a lot of havoc previously in this match. The bucket on the side of Snails is going to be going down as well. That could be a good opening for them here, but it just depends on whether or not we're able to hold for a significant period of time. It feels like Snails have just been applying penalty over and over again. 20 seconds left on the board. 2 members down on the side of FTWin. They really have to make their mark now.
They have to make their mark now. 15 seconds left. They have the zone capped, but not for long. It's going to be Sam trying to fend things off. Is going to have to run away from these strikes and has 5 seconds left to get back on this zone. Zipcast in, able to find one, trying to go for the pencil, is going to go down in the process. That is not going to be the ticket. Specials came up at the right time for Snails. They were able to hold FTWin back throughout that entire last minute of the match and not give them a clean opening.
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked what they did in the last few seconds of that game there, is able to target the other members and kind of not really pay as much attention to that Zipcast, because that was ultimately what FTWin was aiming for. You want them to be distracted by that Zipcast. Keep your attention away from the zone, let us run up, let us take more space, and opting to ignore that, stay alive as best as they could, and just to target their weak spot. And ultimately just get the zone there. That's all you have to do in overtime. There's no reason to overthink it.
Is that, I believe that's Gray that's on the blaster, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I believe you're right. I think that's the most likely thing. I think that's a Yeti on the Splash, and I'm not too sure what Soldier and Noah play off the top of my head.
I think Soldier was on the bucket, so I think Noah's the pencil player, right? And Gray has been such obviously a proficient blaster player since the early days, like the early days, and has, similar to Kyo, right? How I say that Kyo has just been so precise, so strong, so fast for so long. I believe that Gray is on that same note, able to just open up games. And that's exactly what he did. That in that last minute where there were 2 members down, able to just make an opening happen when FTWin had every right to that zone, to their specials, and Gray just took it away.
I'm very impressed. I'm excited to be getting into Crab League Capital of all things as well. This is one of those bigger maps, and as pencil dominant as it is, when you have one on both sides that's very strong, like it kind of cancels it out in a way. But on the other side of that coin, it means that lockouts are a little bit easier, even though we only have like one way into their base. It's just like, okay, well, you got a giant stick stabbing me from there. They don't need to. They don't need to do anything. I do think the crab tanks will play into that a little bit more, though. It's gonna not allow pencils to just do whatever they want.
And it is going to be that back and forth I think is so important. But on the frontline side of things, right, on the aggressive members, I believe it should advantage FTWin, right, with that long range slosher, with the stamper, able to put on a little bit more of that stiff arm pressure, as I like to call it. And that's what we're seeing right here, just keeping Snails at a distance for now. The crabs are going after each other. Bursties get shredded, and the members of FTWin are getting pushed back just a little bit, but they do not mind having to sit back. That Zoocaster getting instantly taken out. Sam not able to find the right spot to distract that pencil, maybe getting a little bit too overzealous, and now FTWin is going to be the ones locked out instead.
Yeah, do you know what a cul-de-sac is?
Yeah, the little round thing at the end of a street.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. They're backing them off into corners with the weapon. I love it. I don't think that's the pun they were going for, but you know what? Like, I vibe.
I vibe with it too.
Yeah. So now FTWin being able to reclaim some space for their own there. Although it looks like Snail's playing this very patiently right now, building up specials. We have that strikes ready. We have the crab tank ready. We're going to be able to pop those. The S-Plus going down, but they weren't holding on to much value for that time being. Able to get this pick onto the slosher from Kyo, and that is going to force FTWin members such as Bert to be forced back in this corner and pop that crab tank of their own.
Wow, just really solid play from Snail. I mean, that looked like like something that you'd see out of an area cup, right? With that perfect timing on the take back, playing patiently until that last opportunity where they could go in. They found the exact spot, they found what they needed to, and now they're able to even chunk down a little bit more of their score, while FTWin tries to stumble their way back into this zone, even though there's a booyah and every single thing being thrown at them. Coolers online for Snails, and Sam goes down on the side of FTWin. 20 ticks left, and there's not a lot of time, not a lot of pressure on the side of FTWin. They have one opportunity to try and get this back. This triple strike getting thrown at a pretty solid spot. And Gray does go down, strikes on the side of Snails, able to take back the zone. 10 ticks left. That is Kyo trying to find a way through Soljan, not able to find it. It's able to get turned around, trying to paint the zone, trying to fight at the same time. There's one member of FTWin in the zone. That's Sam, not able to stay alive. It gets picked off, and that's going to swap the zone back to Snails, and that is 2-0. FTWin on their last leg.
Wow, I couldn't quite anticipate this moment happening, but you know, like this is our number 1 seed, and they are for a reason. What are we doing?
I don't know. I don't even think I understand fully why FTWin's plays aren't working. Right? Because it seems like they have good timing down. Like with that last stretch, right? They had the strikes go down. They had Sam in the zone. They even had Bursty jump in, right? And they had Kyo fighting on the other side. It felt like it should have been at least a cap. At least. And Kyo able to find at least one member, because he was hitting a lot of shots. I saw a lot of hit markers when we were on his perspective. But it's just not enough.
I don't think it's even like a matter of like mechanics. I think Snails has just been playing this very calculated, and I've noticed a lot of patience in the way that they've been doing things. I think FTWin has maybe a bit of a tendency to see opportunities and grab them without really like understanding like the deeper consequences, because I think usually in a lot of like North American tournaments they don't get punished the same way when they do that. But we're seeing a lot of like, oh, okay, well there's a booyah bomb over there, like let me just like try and aim for that, or deal with it, or like just dive for opportunities that might lead with dead ends, because of like just how strong Snails has been looking out for each other. Like we're looking at like Zipcasts trying to get behind pencils here, but it's just it hasn't been rewarding them in the way that it normally does. So I think they're gonna have to like maybe zoom out a little bit and reevaluate how they're using their specials, how they're using all this pressure that they have, because we've seen them play slow. We saw them do that with Hypernova. So just finding ways to, I don't know, like grip some sandpaper to your shoes and figure it out, right? Like slow down. No more slipping.
No more slipping. I think that is exactly correct. And let's see if they're able to do so. This is their second counter pick. They're deciding on ship shape zones for this counter pick. They're able to find 2. So good opening. Let's see if they can just make it through this first little skirmish and get that full setup that they're looking for. Yo's trying to find something with Sam. Is gonna go down to the craziest bomb placement I have ever seen.
No.
Sam doesn't fire off the Zipcaster to try and save themselves. And this is going to be Snails getting right back into the match. A good chunk of points for FTWin, but I think they were hoping for something a little bit more.
Yeah, I think with that cooler there, it just wasn't worth it for Sam to be popping it to stay alive, if anything. So now we're once again getting in the spot where Gray is just getting under their ledges, playing a nuisance, trying to understand these areas of the map where FTWin is going to be sort of pooling in from. Kyo dropping into the zone very aggressively, running towards the members of Snails. But look, you can see all these people, like 3 or 4 members of Snails, just locking in together and facing the exact same target. they can't continue doing this in this match because they've been playing like a well-oiled machine. Like, they are here on the left side together, and that's how they're going to continue to position it until they clear it out. Look, that jump out's going to be happening, and now we're immediately going to be repositioning and looking at other targets together as a team.
It really is a picture-perfect example of how to play together, especially in a comp that's built on chip damage and damage combos and playing around this S-Blast that is going nuclear, that is gray, right? And even if this does go down, Soulja's still there putting on pressure, keeping them from fully getting into the spots that they need to lock out and to give the rest of the team room to do what they need to do. And that's 2 members of FTWin going down. They're just getting collapsed on again. This crab is coming out and pushing them all the way back into their base. I mean, it's just clinical how even when they're in disadvantage, they give themselves the opportunities that they need to make sure that FTWin can't be completely overwhelming.
Yeah, I think this is where the biggest struggle has been. We haven't been seeing 2 members of like FTWin taking on these fights together too much, and I think they absolutely have the capability to. Like, you see Bert coming up here, might try and skirmish alongside Sam's Zipcast, but I just don't see it happening right now. And Soulja going to be moving back, notices it's a bad position, jumps back to their teammate there. That crab tank is just going to be holding space for a lot longer. We're getting down to the 20-second point marker. This could be sail set very soon if they're able to hold this up, and Gray jumping back in. This is just like a valiant team effort.
Oh, hold on. That's the strikes coming in. The FTWin looking like they're finally playing as a unit. That's Gray going down. That's unfortunately Roth going down. Another trade on the side of FTWin. That's 2v2 on this zone. Kyo and Bert trying to hold this down. Has the crab tank. Able to pop it. Cul-de-sac goes down. Able to find one beforehand. That's another crab tank getting popped on the side of Snails. That is the cap for FTWin. And Gray not able to find Bursty. FTWin has a foothold, but they need to make sure that this does not go to waste, and they're able to collapse on Gray in this moment. But that's another Booyah Bomb. That's another set of specials, and I'm just not convinced that this is going to be enough for FTWin in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see some glimmers of, like, teamwork happening here, where I'm looking at Bert kind of running in and trying to make sure everybody is okay, but that's a lot for one person to take on. To protect your pencil player from someone like Gray, who's just going to try and run in and take care of them when they can't even hit that angle, is, like, it's such a challenge for you. Gray has been playing this so safe, but so aggressively at the same time. You're looking at them moving up on that left side there. Everyone is staring down Kyo, who is sitting up in their base.
Gray has just been so good, and jumping out at the perfect moments too, throwing Booyah Bombs before getting taken down by these strikes. That's another 15 tick marker, a Zipcaster that goes down for FTWin. That does not look like they have enough juice left in this tank, but they're 2 down! They're 2 down on the side of Snails. Make it 3! That's a cooler team that ended up going down, but it was just enough for the members of FTWin to look like they're finally starting to lock this out. There's 30 seconds left and 60 ticks left to go to win this game for FTWin. Let's see if they can hold it on.
Bert is going to be popping that crab tank. Gray getting behind him. He has to roll back. Those jump-ins are happening there. I think Gray spot that out, is able to take out Kyo. They're going to take out everybody on that zone. That's Sam going down as well. It's just going to be the pencil left painting the zone, and Bert has to scrap as much as they can, but that's 2 seconds left to go, and they are not holding on to that zone. That is going to be it for FTWin. That is the end of their run.
Wow. I mean, what in the absolute world was that finish? I mean, even that play that FTWin, that beautiful coordination that it looked like they just had everything going, they just didn't follow up, right? There was just not enough movement forward because of the way that Snails was able to kite back so well and make sure that that FTWin did not get into their power positions after those specials came out. I mean, that was just... this is when Splatoon turns into that game of chess, right? This is when it goes from, all right, who executes better on the general ideas, to, all right, we have to make sure that we are playing in the perfect way to counter a certain strategy. And that's the kind of stuff that you just don't see often, that you just don't get a lot of practice often, especially in the current climate, right? Like this is really one of the only kinds of tournaments that you'll see that.
Yeah, and when I think back and I analyze the sets we saw earlier with FTWin, right? We compare that to Hypernova, which didn't quite employ the same strategy. They had players like that kid kind of running in and trying to skirmish as well. Like, you look at that and you see, okay, well, who can just skirmish a bit harder? And it's going to be FTWin. And you can see Snails approaching that match in the exact same way there, collapsing on them and understanding the way that Kyo is going to move in towards them, the way that Bert is going to stand back and just apply pressure from a distance while still being like a crazy painter. Like, they just understand.
And I know I've made a joke of doing that again, but it looks like we are going to be getting ready for Grands, and it is going to be Milky Way from the other side of the bracket versus Snails, who we just saw. It is going to be a best of 7. We are going to get counter picks, and we are starting off on Hagglefish Market, and Milky Way, obviously, is a very interesting team to see all the way back up here again, but honestly, it makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does make sense. I can see why they took the set they did. I guess that there goes your number one pick for the tournament, I suppose. But and it looks like it was pretty clean too. I'm not gonna lie to you. That was a 3-0.
That was a 3-0. Yep.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because I mean, it looked like Milky Way is having not like a little bit of trouble in the group stage, but definitely looking like they weren't like convincing, especially against teams like especially against Snails. I mean, it was 0-3, right? So and that's the rematch that we have right here is Snails versus Milky Way once again. They're just, there's a reason that some of these players were in the World Championship last year.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, 100%. You look at both of these teams, and I kind of have to wonder, because FTWin has been, like, maybe this is just my boomer brain, but like FTWin has been so dominating and they made it look so easy. So I have to wonder, like, what kind of strategy can Milky Way employ that's going to be different from what FTWin has been throwing at them, that's going to be able to dethrone Snails and what they've been doing so far.
And it makes sense too that this is going to be a really interesting set, because there's a lot of data that I'm sure Milky Way gained during the group stage set that they played that they're going to be trying to employ now, right? We're going to have to see if there's certain adjustments that Jared wants to make, right? Like, he's been pretty consistently sticking to the dually squelchers from what I understand, from what I've watched so far, right? Brand has been really solid on those crab tanks with the splash. We'll see what happens. I don't think that it's going to be a matter of weapon comps. I think that most people have, I don't want to say optimized their weapon comps, but just know what works best for them. It's just going to be a matter of using that and trying to play around this dynamite duo that is Gray and Soldier on this bucket and blaster.
I mean, you say that, but at the same time, I remember, I was kind of analyzing things, and I understand that, like, for a lot of teams, saying, oh, it's a comp issue can be a bit of a cop-out. But when I was reviewing a lot of this, like, we both sat in with K-Bot for a little bit. I was looking at it, and I was like, this actually very well could be a comp issue. Like, these teams are very well evenly matched as players, and, like, the strategies that they employ are good, but like when you come into a tournament and you don't have like something that's well rounded for the mode or the map, like that can give you a lower hand from what your opponents are doing. That being said, though, like Snails hasn't been like the most textbook like zones type comp, right? We're not seeing like these sort of like cheesy zone capping specials or anything like that. They've been largely relying on their the way that they use things to get them value rather than like what it is at face value. So going into Haggle, I'm very curious to see how both of these teams approach each other, if they're going to be looking at the same strategy that they've been going with before or what. But looks like not much change is happening on the side of Snails at the very least.
This is Grand Finals for SendouQ Season 7 finale. This is Milky Way versus Snails. we've got these teams, they've been using the same things all day. We've got just a good old-fashioned scrappy kind of play style that we're going to be going into, and let's see how this bloodbath starts. Already the crabs are going. Already we're seeing picks, important picks go down on each side, and it is going to look like Milky Way has the upper hand, able to sneak into the enemy side of the map, and is going to be sniffing out this bucket player. Not able to do so completely, but the follow-up from Ice, and that's going to be a good foothold already and a lot of paint on this map.
Yes, Illit running under that bunker there, basically. We have Cul-de-sac spotting out Jared with pinpoint accuracy. Going to be running towards the zone. That's going to be 2 down there. They just have to worry about Q, who's standing behind the zone there. It's going to be applying a lot of pressure. That's going to allow Jared to jump right back in, but going down almost instantly once again. Gray doing a great job teaming up with their teammates once again. It looks like they have their sights on somebody, but I don't quite think that person is still there.
No, it must have been a ghost or some kind of lingering after effect that they were trying to chase after. But speaking of chasing after, Yeti's able to make good use of this crab tank, able to go dipping, diving around and setting up for this play. Bran is on the other side, trying to get something going with this slosher, trying to put down those strikes, and that's I don't quite see what happened, but that's 3 down to the side of Snails. Milky Way gonna try and get this lead back in their favor. Already, we see the members of Milky Way just going all the way deep into the Snails base.
I feel like more than ever I've been seeing a lot of jump outs happen today, not necessarily to spawn, but to their teammates. I feel like this is something that's kind of a bit newfound for Splatoon in general, especially in like the Tacticooler meta. We've really put a lot of weight on like, okay, well, you have Tacticooler, so it doesn't really matter if you go down. A lot more people valuing their lives on Tacticooler, understanding those stats are going to be buffed on top of that, using it to make better fights and better decisions, and those jump outs happen faster as well because of it. And they're using that to the advantage more than that respawn timer.
Right, and it makes sense, right? Do you want to waste 3 seconds, or do you want to waste like 6-7 seconds in that respawn, and just to get back into that same position when it might just be too late anyways? Snails has this zone, is able to take down a couple of players on the side of Milky Way. Once again, another jump out, just as soon as they get these kills, just flying back to their teammates as fast as they can just to reset, reposition. And it's 2v2 right now on the side of Milky Way, able to get some pressure, get some specials on the zone, but it's still not enough. Right back is going to be the tri-strikes for Snails, and that's 3 down once again on Milky Way, except there's no cooler this time. They're waiting for Q, but they don't have it. They have enough paint to at least neutralize. There's pencil shots flying all over the zone. There's a booyah from Gray that's going to take it down and is going to secure the zone. That was such a scrappy game. I felt like there was never like a fully convincing moment.
Yeah, I mean, wow. Like, knowledge is power here, and like, you could see how they use that positioning so well to just get behind them. I was like, even I was surprised, and we have like the best vision out of anyone. I was shocked to see Gray behind them. I was like, how did you get here, bro? And then popping the Booyah Bomb like mid-fight just to hold that zone and getting the game for it, going unpunished entirely. Like popping a Booyah Bomb on top of your head, and they don't even have the option to fight it because they're still too occupied trying to cap the zone. You can't shoot both.
Yeah, and like, how did Gray... I mean, like, maybe he didn't, right? Maybe he didn't see this scenario playing out exactly that way. But the fact that he wiggled his way in, probably tacticoolered up, and having the stats to be able to do that, and then popping that booyah at the perfect time and basically saying, this is an automatic win.
Yeah.
So funny. I felt like Milky Way never quite... There were a couple of moments where they should have had like a significant lockout, but it felt like it just never realized in the same way, and that the members of Snails got back to pushing them back and putting on pressure very quickly, right? Like when they were locked out, they knew exactly how to make it feel like they weren't.
a great ability from them to just run back in. And I'm still shook about that pick that Cul-de-sac got on Jared. Like, that was just so quick. Like, oh, I hit the first shot. Boom. Like, like not even trying to paint.
It must have been they saw them moving to that spot, right? Moving to that corner, something like that. But it was just
1 pixel of his forehead.
Game 2, we've got Umami Ruins. A little bit of a view from above. We're not going to be seeing any switch ups at all, and I don't expect there to be any switch ups for the rest of the set. We're going to be seeing Brand back on the bucket. We're going to be seeing Ice on that whatchamacallit, that Splash-O-Matic. I'm very good at remembering my weapons. And we're going to be seeing these specials already flying. And I really think it's so interesting that these specials just get popped so early.
Yeah, I mean, it can make a huge difference. Like, we're seeing right now, like, that crab tank got used, but, like, it just seemed like Milky Way was able to get behind the other crab tank. They saw, all right, you know, we know what you're going to do. We're doing the same thing, but we're going to do it better. So now we're looking at, like, a very kind of tough spot for the members of Snails here. Getting those crab tanks, they're kind of in the negative with the points right now, actually. So they're gonna have to build something up here, and it looks like even though they were able to pop a couple specials, they're not really getting anything out of it here. Milky Way getting themselves into a very good spot to lock out while still maintaining a lot of space, is using that crab tank once again, going to try and prevent the members of Snails from escaping their base, but those booyah bombs that we could not stop talking about coming out and coming to play.
I feel like there's just so much paint right now on the side of Milky Way, and so much pressure that Snails can't commit to one zone or the other, and they can't even neutralize. Jump-ins are just going to get taken down. That was like a minute and a half, and all of a sudden Milky Way is on the board. Wow.
I mean, look, if this is how it's going to be, like, I'm fine with it, but at the same time, like, Snails took that first game, so it can't be back and forth together. Somebody's got to bend.
I'm trying to think, like, maybe it was just that instead of... I think in that Hagglefish game, when Milky Way got into those lockouts, they weren't securing kills safely. Right, and it was kind of like all of a sudden we're trading and we're not like in quite the perfect spots to chunk people down and erase them from the map and move forward with that pressure. But I feel like in this game they executed on that a little bit better and just had a better start, and those two things combined just let them force Snails into like a 50 tick situation where they had to get specials as fast as they could, and then got a little bit rushed.
Yeah, definitely there. I think you could see a bit of panic happening once they got into that lockout position. They didn't really have a way of getting out of it the same way they did with Haggle, where they could just kind of like blatantly apply kills from their spawn. It's like they're so talented at, but like there's just like two spots that you can target and guarantee that the pencil's not going to be able to show their face, and that's what they did. So getting into Macomart, this counter pick, I think that is a very strategic pick from them. There's a lot of entry points here, and I think it's like very reasonable for the members of Snails to like take the fights. And I mean, like, it speaks for itself, right?
The chess speaks for itself for sure. Gray will love this entire map. Like, it's just so perfectly built for S-Blast, and Slosher obviously has a field day with it as well. You can't deal with this S-Blast significantly unless you have like 5 specials being thrown at it, and even then it's just cooler and it's going to get right back into the game and have a Booyah Bomb at the ready, right? Like, this is Gray's playground, and they just need to make sure that they keep enabling him and keep letting him do what he's been so solid at for the entirety of the rest of the tournament. 40 ticks left. Milky Way is stuck in their base. This is already curtains.
I loved seeing the gears turn in Yeti's brain when you could see that it was only Q left alive, and you just see Q like trying to get a cooler together, throwing that burst bomb, going down, and now we're like here, we're 10 seconds left to go. Jared's trying to get behind and make something happen, and that's going to pay off very quickly.
That's a crazy cap from Milky Way. See if they can maintain it even with 2 members down. There's strikes going down for Snails, able to cap the zone and get Gray back into a very dangerous position for the members of Milky Way. Misses the jump up the lip to try and avoid that bomb, and it would have worked if he had made it, but just barely not enough. And that honestly could be a very important domino falling. Jared is in a great position now, and the members of Milky Way seem to be having a little bit more of an easy time getting back and fighting with their teammates.
Yeah, I really like the spacing that they've chosen to tackle Jared at. You could see earlier there that, like, okay, Yeti knows that they can't really fight Jared head on, is going to stay back a little bit, chuck some burst bombs, and just force Jared into a corner. And that has allowed Snails ultimately to get back into this zone here. We're seeing so many burst bombs coming out, just trying to dodge all this paint output. And now Gray, once again, getting to his comfortable spot, but I don't think it's going to be safe anymore.
Literally, why didn't anyone else think of this? The counter to Gray is to just throw a bomb at his feet while he's in a corner, I guess. Like, it seems like it's not going to be quite enough for Milky Way to cap the zone and get their way back into the map. They're just getting shut down at every single entrance, right? Just getting stopped by the security guard that is Snails. And what do you do when a bouncer's in your face, right?
I mean, like, look at what we're staring at here. We're down to the 20 seconds of penalty points, and basically after that, it's guaranteed knockout. Getting those strikes out onto Jared, I think that was almost predictive. Like, those have a bit of a timer on them, so getting those out at the good time was a great decision from them here. And now it's just going to be the members of Milky Way sitting back on this zone here. They don't really have too many specials to combat the members of Snails coming back in there. We're seeing more jump outs coming out from Gray. He's finding himself in a corner, and I don't think he likes that anymore.
No, adaptation is the name of the game, I feel like, in this tournament, and we are seeing the adaptation from Gray to stop dying to a funny triangle bomb. Speaking of dying to funny, that's Jared getting taken out in that corner. 2 members down on the side of Milky Way. There's still some fight left in them, but that is going to be the cap. They've got 1 minute left to make sure that Snails doesn't have the zone, and that is in their favor instead. But with these Booyah Bombs, it's just been so hard to solidify any kind of presence for Milky Way. I mean, they're just all so spread out right now.
Yeah, we're seeing Yeti and their teammate Soldier fighting Jared in that little corner around that box there. And now, once again, forced to jump out. It's not too bad for them right now. They're still sitting on a very nice lead, but it can get dangerous very fast if the fight goes wrong here. I think we're very realistically looking at a potential opportunity for the members of Milky Way to get back in and re-secure that lead. That Booyah Bomb from Gray is going to stall the clock a little bit, but not quite cap that zone. They have another cooler at the ready, so they do need to win a fight, and they kind of need to win it without much pressure.
It's going to be Snails winning the fight. 14 seconds left and 14 ticks. That's a penalty points, 45 applied for Milky Way. There's 2 going down to the side of Milky Way and 7 seconds left, but Ice is in the zone. Ice in the zone, trying to find a pick, able to find one. Jared is able to jump in, but not able to get the bomb into paint down in time to cap it and turn it the other way. That is Snails hanging on, a little bit shaky, but they adapted, they found their rhythm, they won on their counter pick. They're going into game 4 up, and they've got the final counter pick if things just keep going back and forth.
Wow, okay. They can play this game very long, but part of me also thinks that we're going to hit a point where Snails is just going to start winning on the Milky Way counter picks. I do believe that. Like, I think there's only so many opportunities you can pick. Like, you can't find that many maps where you're going to be stronger than what Snails has been putting out.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to say it, but like...
No, you're so right. And it's something that I'm sure the players of Milky Way is thinking about right now. Like, all right, you know, we have Q who's strong. We have Brand who's been like really solid at trying to counteract Gray and have maps where Jared is able to put that kind of pressure out. Like you're thinking like Crab Leg, Barnacle and Dime, and then like maybe one more. But after Umami, after Hagglefish, right? Like what do you pick? Hammerhead? Right? Like eventually things just get a little bit too chaotic in those counter picks that you might have an advantage that there could be something else that spins it the other way.
Yeah, and you know, circling back to like the players on Milky Way, if you look at someone like Jared, they value a lot of wide open spaces, but then you look at a map like Hagglefish and they've already lost there. That's one of the widest zones maps you have. Like you need to give Jared the space to do what he has to do. So I think that can come into play in Barnacle and Dime a little bit, but like I don't know what if they ever face like a lockout position, it's going to be very difficult for them to get back in.
Maybe they're trying to play towards Bran, right? Because this is a map where Slosher is really solid. And even though there is Soldier on the other side who has been doing well, maybe they feel like, all right, well, Brandon's been the one doing solid right now. Like, Strikes is really good on this map. Slosher has a lot of good angles on this map. Maybe that's how they're going to try and put Gray back into those corners and force an error, right? Maybe that's what they're thinking. And maybe they saw that pick that Jared got with the Echo Locator at the end of that last game and thought, all right, maybe we could just start going like this. But look at that. Brand gets a beautiful pick on Gray, trying to shark in the middle of the map, and Jared's able to flank around on the side. Already Snails is on the back foot.
Yeah, okay, all right. Soldier getting that pick in that battle of the sloshers. We are noticing Jared kind of running into our base there, is able to get that pick as a team. We've been seeing this great teamwork coming out from them so far, and everyone's staying alive on the side of Snails for now. That cooler is going to be coming out. That crab tank is going to be used to get rid of Q's good positioning here. She is able to stay where she is, and Jared's still playing this aggressively, but like we need a zone cap. There is a big rectangle in the middle of the map we have to be paying attention to here.
Soldier's gonna try and find a pick on that crab, not able to get anything. There is gonna be a Booyah Bomb. Ice is backed all the way into the corner. That is gonna be the cap. The big rectangle has gone orange. And Yeti's already putting on another round of bonus pressure with that crab tank, and they're able to get a much further stronghold than they had the last time. 2 picks already going to the favor of Snails. I think the members of Milky Way were cooler up, and so there is going to be a little bit more pressure back, but it's still very, very scary. Oh, that's a lot of players going down for Snails, though.
Yeah, that's definitely a little bit concerning here. They have been very persistent in the way that they've been moving back in here. Like we're seeing Yeti kind of run back in with the Soldier at like in tow, and somehow taking out these fights together. Soldier just barely staying alive by the skin of his teeth. And once again, these players just like, even in the harshest conditions, making their way through, getting these great spots once again. And now Soldier is going to have that height advantage as the Slosher is able to move up here. And this is the exact thing I was talking about before the game, Magic. They don't want to, like, Milky Way doesn't want to be stuck in this position against this particular team. No,
definitely not, especially with the Blasters able to put on such a clinic on how to position and how to make the most of these tight corners. Jared's able to finally break out, is going to have a nice wave breaker to try and dissuade people from staying in their side of the base. That's a lead switch back to Snails. They're at 21 ticks and still have control of this zone. They've got the strikes as well. There's a crab tank on the loose as well as a cooler. There's just nothing on the side of Milky Way except for a strike that got thrown out right before death. Ice is trying to get in the zone and try and find a pick, but he was going down. There's a little bit of paint, but it's not enough. That is Snails winning on the Milky Way counter pick. That is 3-1. This might be the final to last game. It might be over next match.
It very well could be. Like this is like a rough spot for the members of Milky Way. They had to be confident in one of the sort of wider map picks, given their comp, and that's sort of where they have the upper hand. Like you can look at things like Bran playing Slosher, but like you're still dealing with Gray, who's also using great use of AoE and getting around these ledges. Like you saw, like it just felt like Kyo was dealing with Gray all the time. Kyo loves taking those great angles, but you know, some person who likes them even more is going to be Gray, is going to be looking around those corners. And they have Solja on their side as well, who has just been taking great high ground, looking over those ledges, understanding the way that sloshers play, for obvious reasons when you think about it, right? So this is going to be rough. Like I know we're not really anticipating much of a switch around for comps, but I think if you're in the position of Milky Way, you almost have no choice at this point. Like what you have been doing so far hasn't been enough to deal with what Snails has been doing, and now we are going into Hammerhead Bridge.
Yeah, what I say?
Yep. It's exactly as you put it. A very narrow map, one that we haven't seen too much in modern day of Splatoon 3 very often, and it's kind of another bull one. It's rough to be picking this one, but I kind of understand the reasoning behind it if you have a very rangy comp.
Exactly. Like they want to have the ramps and the flat ground so that Jared can move around and have those options, as well as have like just enough cover for Bran to be able to use that spacing as well, and not let Gray get those like crazy angles, right? To just keep them in the flat areas. But it's just so hard because this map it's wide enough, but I know that I've seen S-Blast do well on this map as well. And again, there's still Solja on the other side. There's still a very dynamic factor on that front too, who can use that flat ground to their advantage. I really think it's going to come down to how Milky Way uses their specials, because what we've been seeing from Snails is just like that last play that put Snails over the edge. It was a well-timed crab almost after the fight to give them that bonus pressure to fully get that lockout happening, right? And I think that we need to start seeing the same thing from Milky Way, is that they haven't been using their specials to completely clear things out after a big fight, right? They need to start using it a bit more sporadically.
What did I say? Like, we're going to be needing to see a bit of a switch up, and that's exactly what we have here. We have Jared switching to the vanilla dualies with that crab tank, and now in his wake, we have a Neo Splash-O-Matic is going to be applying a whole lot of those strikes. We already have them at the ready very early on the game, as expected from any Splash-O-Matic player here, and that's going to allow them to move in, but it was all a trap!
Oh my goodness, a beautiful bomb from Solja. And Solja, boy, tell him that's at least 3 going down at the hands of that bucket. And nothing has ever been more scary than a bucket, in my opinion, in Splatoon 3. It's just terrifying. These strikes are going down once again for Milky Way, but the control still rests in Snail's hands. They've got the crab tank, they've got these specials going at a good rate. Finally, that bucket goes down, but is it enough? Jared, I love this pick. I love Jared, and I wonder if this has been their secret prep that they've been waiting to pull out in the last daring moment, because this is such a solid comp, and Bran back on blasters gives me so much joy.
Yeah, it is a very exciting moment for me too. I love seeing that mirrored S-Blast pairing here. It seems like Solja did notice where Jared was hanging out there. Says, all right, you jumped out, but hey, Ice is still here. I'll take him out as well. So now Bran is going to be dealing with Solja, who says, I'm not done yet. He's going to jump back towards the sort of entrance of that zone there, and now Q kind of forced to deal with that Booyah Bomb, isn't going to make it out with her life, and this is Gray once again going on a tear that we've known him for this whole time.
And I've been seeing that when Bran and Jared can have that kind of like switch off moment, right? Like they're able to bait and switch. That's when they have Gray like been able to take care of him, been able to push him back. but it's just not happening consistently enough, right? Jared is finding himself in these spots where he has to jump out. Bran has not been solidifying with the presence, and these specials are just so hard to get around. It's a map that is so narrow, has so few entry points, and there's only 20 ticks left. There's 2 specials up on the side of Milky Way. This is their last stand, and they've got to get this going now, but that is Q going down. Strikes on the zone from both sides. The Crab is able to finish things off, and 2 go down on the side of Snails to make sure that the Calip goes to Milky Way. They're starting to move forward. That Bran throwing that Booyah Bomb, but not quite getting all the way up into the enemy base. Is trying to find a way to lock them out, but no, that is Gray shutting them down once again. The strikes going out to try and prevent people from going, but a beautiful jump from Gray. What is happening, Siren?
I just love seeing these jump arounds the map. Like the positioning from all of these members is so sporadic and so calculated. We're once again seeing Yeti moving up there. They understand how close they are to that timer. We're looking to play maybe a little bit riskier, and it doesn't matter if we go down all the way in their base if it means timing them out and just looking at that clock moving down. They do have to be very careful, though. We're looking at a Neo Splash-O-Matic on the other side, on the side of Milky Way there. So they can't get too far from the zone because they always risk it getting capped over. And speaking of capped over, those strikes and that Booyah Bomb coming out once again, that is going to warrant them in a fight win. Bran running all the way up is going to get in a great position for a blaster. Jared's sitting at his side. What?
That was a crazy pick on the Splash-O-Matic from Q, who walked all the way up with the rest of the team. That's what an anchor needs to do to put on that kind of pressure to allow the team to move forward. Bran goes down. This is strikes, and I believe there's a crowd that's near completion for Jared. That's going to be a trade. 3 going down for Milky Way. That was a great offensive pressure. There's still not completely out of it yet, out of the woods. There's a cap for Snails. Milky Way has 43 seconds and about 40 ticks left to try and cap this. They're gonna do it again. All of a sudden, these picks are just coming out so quickly for the members of Milky Way.
You getting that pick, that is going to be huge. That's going to allow Bran to run in. Is going to get punished a little bit for it. Maybe a bit too early here. We're seeing Illit stand back behind that zone there. I think this is a very smart decision. You have those strikes at the ready here. You're playing it very safe. You're keeping that charger on the side of Snails in their base, and you could have that strike ready when you get close to that point switch. But speaking of, we're popping them a little bit early. It's going to be a strike-on-strike action on the zone. 2 members down on the side of Milky Way, and we are looking down 5 seconds left in the game. They need to hold a cap here. This could be it.
That is going to do it. Snails able to dive at the perfect timing with just the right amount of pressure, with just the right execution to land those final picks and secure that victory. That is them winning grand finals. They have won the tournament of the season 7 finale of SendouQ. That was so convincing from Snails. Milky Way doing a great job adapting, but it was just barely not enough at the end.
Just barely not enough. I think, when it comes down to it and you just need to cap the zone in the last few seconds there, you're sitting on that lead, you'll do anything to get to that point.
That was crazy. That was absolutely insane. And Snails really showed that they have fully what it takes to compete at the highest level, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that was far beyond most of what we saw today, right? Oh, they showed they were a step above. They were cool, calm, collected, while at the same time being absolutely impossible to break.
Yeah, just an unstoppable force. Even when you think you've won the fight, it's never over with them, it feels like. There will always be some kind of punish for playing too greedy against them, because they always have each other's backs. And
that's a snail for you, right? They're moving
covered. They're protected.
They're protecting each other. They're moving slowly. They're ready to go.
You can pick them up and drop them off pretty easily.
So congratulations to them. Thank you. Thanks everyone so much for tuning in, but don't go anywhere. We are going to be going into a special announcement video. So please watch. Thank you so much for tuning in.
one here from Pixie to Flopby, and they'll take it in. And Metro stops the on.
So, chat, am I still here?
Back.
Welcome back! If you
It's
liked-
Super Jump.
Yay! If you liked what you saw today, you will not want to miss Super Jump 5 hosted on IPL on Saturday to Sunday, June 28th to the 29th. That's coming up pretty soon, guys. There is a $250 starting prize pool, a high quality stream, and brackets on day 2 for all skill levels. A few teams you saw today will be in attendance, and you can register now at start.gg/SJ. That's SJ for Super Jump.
I'm so happy that not only is there they announce the 5th one, but the 6th and the 7th as well. Like that's so hyped to just know, all right, this isn't the end, right? This is gonna be a great tour. This is gonna be such a hype event, and then there's gonna be one 3 months later, right? I love seeing that. I love seeing the fact that this tournament that has so much history is coming back, and is coming back in a new way and in full force.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited for the resurgence of Super Jump. I think one thing that the community has been kind of missing for a little bit is something for the general public to strive for, something to aim for, and go like, this is what I want my group to win. So I'm pumped.
So we've got that on the horizon. This is incredible. This is amazing. But I think that overall, there's not much else left for us to say. Again, links are going to be everywhere. I'm sure there's going to be announcements everywhere. There's going to be people celebrating on Blue Sky. Please make sure to give the team that you supported your support, especially if they were snails and they got the victory. Go ahead and make sure everyone knows that you are such a big fan of this game, of these teams, and of the amazing players we all saw. But Siren, is there anything else that we missed?
I don't think so. I'm going to plug everything that I've been plugging for every other tournament. I'm just going to say, go to Get On My Level. If you're anywhere near Toronto, or even if you're from the States, you should come travel up here. Say hi.
Heck yes, for certain. It's going to be a fantastic event. It's going to be hosted by Siren, and it is going to be, there's going to be a lot of fun faces there that haven't been around in a little bit. So it's going to be very exciting. I'm very excited to see what happens there.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything to plug, other than I hope everyone has a fantastic summer of Splatoon, because it is going to be very exciting.
Yeah, you can find me at this handle. I don't think they can find you at that handle that you have listed for you, Magic, but
Oh my gosh, that's old. That's my old handle. That's so funny.
I don't think they can find you, but it's fine. You know what? Yeah, I'm just happy. I want to thank IPL for putting this on and having us today as well. So it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you to Grace, to Toasty, to Justin, for the entire stream team that has been working. No, Justin, it's fine. Thank you all so much for the wonderful people that have put on this production, for asking us to come and join. I've been Magic 8 Ball.
You have been.
I might not be for long, who knows?
Yeah, all right. Well, I'm Siren. Thank you again. You guys have a good night. Sign up for Super Jump.